So special things there are just scenes. So sorry for the inconvenience. We are having a technical issue. Is it audible? Is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Anyone? Yes. So it's a great afternoon to one and all present over here. Honorable Vice Chancellor of Fakirmon University, Professor Madhumita Das Ma'am, esteemed Professor Sushil Kumar Giri sir, Principal RIHS, and today dignitaries, Professor Kumar Vara Das sir, Economist and former Vice Chancellor of University, Mr. Satya Kumar Behra sir, Executive Director, Morgan Stanley, London, UK, Professor Boris Petrovich, Denisov, Moscow University, Russia, Aradhana Nandamam, Associate Professor, Delhi University, New Delhi, and most importantly, our virtual and global participants. Myself, Dr. Jagannath Kumar, welcome you all to this virtual platform and expect a fruitful outcome from this webinar because we are running with that native GDP, not only India, most of the country running with negative GDP, that they are all running with minus GDP. So now we should expect some fruitful things from this webinar. Now it's a time to welcome our dignitaries. For that, I would like to request our Honorable Principal, sir, to welcome our dignitaries. So over to you, sir. Principal, sir. Principal, sir, RIHS.
Good afternoon, one and all. I am very much pleased to know about this international webinar organized by Department of Economics. Further, I am extremely delighted on having virtual presence of our beloved Chief Patron, Professor Madhumita Das, Vice Chancellor, Fakirmon University, Odisha. Our Chief Guest, Professor Dr. Kumar Vara Das, our invited speakers, Professor Boris Denisov, Associate Professor Dr. Aradhana Nanda, and Mr. Sanjay Behera, who will certainly enlighten us on the topic impact of COVID on global economy. I welcome all the guests and resource persons from the core of my heart and on behalf of the Rural Institute of Higher Studies, Bogarai, Balasore, Odisha. Again, I welcome all the participants from India and abroad and expect full cooperation for this webinar with their valuable suggestions and rational interaction. I also welcome and convey my good wishes to the convener, Dr. Dhirendra Kumar Jana, coordinator, Srimati Namita Bala Pradhan, organizing secretary, Mr. Manoj Kumar Oi, moderator, Mr. Ajay Kumar Mahapatra, and their team for organizing this great intellectual event with all their perseverance, hard work, honesty, and integrity. Last but not the least, I welcome all the media friends who have joined this educational event. Finally, I conclude my welcome address, once again wishing all the success. Thanking you all.
Thank you very much, sir, for this warm welcome. Now it's time. I'd like to request Professor Pradhan, HOD, Department of Economics, to enlighten us about our today's dignitaries. Over to you, Professor Namita Bala Das.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, all. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Mrs. Namita Bala Pradhan, Head of the Department of Economics, RIHS Bhograi, as well as coordinator of the webinar. Feel privileged to introduce our speakers. We have among us Professor Dr. Madhumita Das, the Chief Patron and inaugurator of this webinar. Dr. Das, Vice Chancellor of Fakirmohan University, Balasore, Odisha, is an eminent figure in the field of geology. Dr. Das has carried out research as DAD Fellow under Indo-German Exchange Program at Heidelberg University in Germany and presented her research work as a delegate at Japan, China, UK, Portugal, Norway, Australia, South Africa, and in many other countries. Presently, she is the Vice President of South Asian Association of Women Geoscientists and member of corresponding citizen scientist of IAPG. She is known for her active association with various international research organizations such as International Association for Gondwana Research, International Medical Geology Association, Indian Institute of Mineral Engineers, among many others. Then we have with us Professor Dr. Kumar Das as our chief guest of its webinar. Dr. Kumar Das is a social scientist, economist, and ex-vice chancellor of AFM University, Odisha. He is an insightful scholar with organic thoughts. Dr. Das is a very reputed educationist and mind-blowing orator. He is the alumni of Presidency College of Calcutta University. Dr. Das was the member of State Pollution Board and president of All Odisha Economic Association. He is the examiner of UGC NET examination, IAS and IES examination of UPSC. Dr. Das was the chief economist of different research projects of ODA, ILO, UNICEF, WHO, and World Bank. He was the Vice Chancellor of Fakirmohan University, Balasore, and Professor of Applied Economics and Chairman Department of Economics, Utkal University. Dr. Das was the head of research, SBI and RBI endowment. He has obtained PhD, Calcutta University, DLIT, Utkal University, and DSc, California University. Dr. Das has supervised 30 PhD scholars, authored 32 books, and 200 research papers. He has expertise in microeconomics, macroeconomics, welfare economics, and mathematical economics. His research interest includes rural development, poverty, livelihood, and food security, sustainable development, child labor, tribal development, women empowerment, regional development, tourism, displacement, and disaster management. We have with us Professor Boris Petrovich Denisov as our guest of honor of this webinar. Professor Boris currently is a personal consultant for Dr. Leonard Rossal. He is currently as engineer of the first category of the Faculty of Economics, Moscow State University. Professor Boris works as a researcher, demographer, research on gender dynamics in Transgender Foundation, Moscow. He worked as a demographer at the Interdisciplinary Center for AIDS Research and Education at St. Petersburg. Professor Boris is the founder and head of the Laboratory of Social and Medical Demography of the Alnyabok branch of Moscow University. He was a research fellow in regional demography at the Institute of Economics of State Planning Committee of Russia. Professor Boris joined International Faculty Development Program, Marketing and Management, University of Navarra, IESE Business School in Barcelona, Spain. Now, we have with us Dr. Aradhana Nanda as our guest of honor. Dr. Aradhana Nanda works as an associate professor, Department of Economics, SGS College of Commerce, University of Delhi. She has more than 23 years of teaching experience. Her areas of specialization includes development economics and Indian economics. Dr. Nanda is associated with several innovation projects at University of Delhi as one of the principal investigators. She has presented a paper titled Demography, Old Age Savings and Inflation, a post-reform analysis at the Emerging Researchers Conference on Demography, Aging and Health at University of Oxford, United Kingdom. Dr. Nanda has various publications to her credit. She is known for the designing 15 months for e-learning for EPG Pathshala project under NMEICT mission of Ministry of HRD government. Then we have with us Mr. Sanjoy Bera as our guest of honor. Mr. Sanjoy Bera is an IT infrastructure technologist with over 20 years of experience in telecom and financial services industry. In his current role, Mr. Bera works as an executive director at Morgan Stanley, an American multinational investment bank and financial services company. His areas of cooperations are defining strategy and architecture for Morgan Stanley, IT infrastructure technology, risk and business continuity. Outside of his day job, he gets involved in many philanthropic initiatives. That's all in brief about our speaker. Now over to Dr. Jagannath Kumara for presentation. Thanking you all.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for this very beautiful introductory glance. And now it's a time to request our teacher and lecturer also, Associate Professor Manoj Kumar Hui, to flash on about this webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Kumara. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Manoj Kumar Hui, faculty member, Department of Economics, RHS, and the organizing secretary of the webinar. This is a golden opportunity for me to have the privilege to speak about the webinar topic. COVID-19 has affected 2,94,33,661 people, and it has killed 9,32,395 people till today in 213 countries. The outbreak of pandemic all over the world has disturbed the political, social, economic, religious, and financial structures of the world. The topmost economies of the world, such as US, China, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Japan, and many others, are at the verge of collapse. The global economy is expected to shrink by over 3% in this year, the steepest slowdown since the Great Depression of 1930s. This is an outcome far worse than the 2008-9 global financial crisis. Over 95% of the countries in the world are projected to have negative per capita income growth this year. Advanced economies are expected to grow by -8%, and emerging market and developing economies are expected to grow by -3%. If China is excluded from this pool, then it will be -5%. The cumulative output loss to the global economy across 2020 and 2021 from the pandemic crisis will be over $12 trillion. The World Trade Organization has predicted world merchandise trade could plummet between 13% to 32% this year following the impact of COVID-19. Less consumer spending is already hitting this sector. hard and with a weakening of aggregate demand, a vicious Keynesian cycle of low investment and high unemployment will lead the economy into a recessionary state. In the US, COVID-19 related disruptions have led to millions filing for unemployment benefits. Since 21st March this year, more than 36 million have filed for unemployment benefits in the US, which is almost a quarter of the working age population. Many advanced nations have rolled out support packages to get rid of the crisis. While India's economic stimulus package is 10% of its GDP, Japan's is 21.1%, followed by US 13%, Sweden 12%, Germany 10.7%, France 9.3%, Spain 7.3%, and Italy 5.7%. However, global fiscal support stands at over $10 trillion. However, the World Economic Forum notes that there is concern that the size of packages may prove insufficient for the duration of the crisis. Let me now highlight certain important objectives of the topic under discussion, which may draw kind attention of the honorable speakers. To understand if globalization is made responsible for the spread of COVID-19 and has the pandemic affected the course of globalization, will COVID-19 force the world community to rethink the concept of globalization? To understand the spillover effects of COVID on the global economy among various markets and sectors such as stock market, tourism, pharma, MSME, FMCG, education, hotel, restaurant, banking and insurance, etc. To understand how the crisis combines demand and supply shocks. To understand how the crisis has spread to the financial sector, how the pandemic is responsible for labor market crisis, and how it has been very much critical to migrant laborers, adding to the problem of unemployment, underemployment, and poverty. The global recovery in the short term to medium term. In order to understand the global recovery in the short term to medium term, whether economic consequences of COVID-19 would follow a V-shaped, U-shaped, or L-shaped growth pattern. To understand how policy responses matter but differ markedly. To understand the role and actions of G20 nations during the crisis. To understand how India can get its growth back on its track quickly. To what extent loan restructuring plan in India as a part of monetary policy will help revive our economy. How India can easily convert health crisis into an opportunity. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, sir, for enlightening also regarding this webinar. And you have touched many aspects. So now it's the time, and I would like to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Fakirmon University, Professor Madhumita Das ma'am, for the special address. Over to you, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Fakirmon University. Sorry, probably we are unable to reach her. She might stay connected later. So now it's the most awaited time, and the presentation session is going to be. And for that, I would like to request our first honorable speaker, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Behra sir, Executive Director, Morgan Stanley, London. So over to you, sir.
Hello, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, sir.
Okay. Yes. Good afternoon. Here it is morning, actually 8:30. Sorry, going to be 9 o'clock in London, and I think we are hitting 1:30 in Bogurai, right? Good afternoon, everybody. Respected speakers, authorities of RHS Bhograi, and the dignitaries present for this particular webinar, and my dear students. I think that was an elaborate expression about myself. I'm Sanjay Behera from Bhograi itself. I studied in Fakir Mohan College back in 89, 91 time. I have been working with Morgan Stanley as an executive director, and my domain of expertise is information technology. I'm by no means an economist. That way I'm an outsider. One request, if you're not speaking, can you guys go on mute? Okay. So what I was saying is, by no means I'm an economist, and for that matter, when I read about the dignitaries, the speakers, and all the people in this webinar, you guys are from the domain, from economics itself, and you will live and breathe economics. That is not my job, not my cup of tea. For that matter, I'm relieved because I'm an outsider. My perspective is around IT sector, and the COVID-19 impact on the IT sector and how IT sector basically came into the rescue. And I'll be talking more or less about that topic for the next 25 to 30 minutes that is allotted to me. Is that okay?
Yes, sir, fine.
Okay, so I have a small presentation just to put my thoughts into structure. Let me know if you guys can see it. Just give me a sec. I have to start my presentation or share the screen. Okay, I think you have disabled the screen sharing for myself. Can somebody enable it, please?
Let me enable, sir. So I have already enabled, sir.
Please make him co-host so that he can share his screen.
Yeah, definitely. I made you, sir. Sir, you are co-host, sir. You can present also.
Okay, let me just do it. Okay, I can do that now. Share the desktop. Okay, so you should be able to see my presentation now. Oh, sorry, just give me a sec. Okay, so I'll be talking mostly about the perspective from information technology as a sector, and how COVID-19 has an impact on that sector, and how the sector is doing, as of now. And again, meaning, we used technology to kind of fight against COVID or any aftermath of COVID. So my presentation will be focused around that one. The reason is twofold. One is my whole experience is around IT, and I probably understand IT better than economics itself. And the other thing is it has a profound impact on how the way we are going to, meaning we are working right now, or the whole world is going to step up in future. That being said, let me just go to, sorry, what is happening? Okay, so let me just go to the agenda. This is a high-level agenda. Basically, I'll be talking about socioeconomic fallout of COVID-19 on a very, very brief level. I'll be talking about the impact of COVID-19 on India GDP in the Q1, basically some numbers, and overview of Indian IT sector, and so on and so forth. So I'm rushing it through. If you want to slow me down, you can tell it. It's just because I have given 30 minutes. I'm just trying to finish it off. Okay.
Yes, sir. Carry on, sir, please.
Okay, so one of the disclaimer, the facts and figures and pictures I have used in this particular presentation, those are not my research. I have gone through so many papers and reviews and news and stuff, and some of the facts and figure and pictures I have copied those from those articles. Just a disclaimer that I am not claiming that this is my own work, but I have tried to put it in a summarized manner so that people can appreciate and have a look at things in a summary level. Okay. So the background of this whole COVID-19, right? So what is COVID-19? COVID-19 is basically a respiratory disease that is caused by a virus called SARS-CoV-2, or a severe acute respiratory syndrome CoV-2. CoV stands for coronavirus 2. Was this virus is the only virus from that family we encountered? No, we have this virus in the past. We have got SARS, we have got MERS, we have got Ebola from the same family in the past. Why this virus has such a far-reaching impact than the other viruses, right? So I think that is a bigger question. It is highly virulent. The virus can spread in the air up to a distance. The virus can remain undetected on a person. We call it asymptomatic. And within that asymptomatic level, a person can remain undetected for 14 days. And within the 14 days, anybody who comes into the contact of that particular person has the chance to get infected. Now, in our lifetime, we have not seen such a pandemic that has got, that has spread across the globe. If you see this particular picture, that basically shows the enormity of this particular virus and the spread of this particular virus throughout the world. It has impacted the people from over 213 countries and territories across the world. And this starts basically talks volume, how it is impacted and how many people per million are impacted so far as on 13 September 2020. So if you see the numbers, these are enormous numbers. Almost 928,000 deaths as of now, meaning this figure I took it a couple of days ago, and today actually I was just checking it. It is 928,000 deaths so far in the world, so close to 1 million deaths globally. India, we are seeing almost 100,000 cases a day. We are almost, meaning we are second there, but we're quickly racing towards being the #1 position in terms of number of COVID patients or COVID impacted people in the world. So this has got far-fetching implication as compared to any other outbreaks we have seen in the past. I think the close resemblance will be probably the Spanish flu that occurred in 1929-30 time frame. And that time actually it also was a global pandemic, but that is meaning nobody in the living memory can remember any disease that was kind of impacted so many lives in so many different ways throughout the world. So it has got massive implication in terms of social life. It has got massive implications in terms of financial health of people, health of countries, and health of regions, health of companies, and job security. So I think the topic that has been chosen by the Department of Economics of our HS is really prudent at this point in time, and I'm happy that I can just give my thoughts a little bit so that people can do their own research and learn more if they want to. So what is the socioeconomic fallout of COVID-19? I have just put some charts focusing around only two things probably. One is the GDP, and I think already Mr. Hui has already touched upon a lot of numbers. I don't remember all those numbers, but I'm just taking one number from that particular speech. If you see that the GDP for all the G7 countries economy, they're all negative apart from China. In Q1 or Q2, basically, in terms of Indian accounting standard, in terms of American accounting standard, it is Q2. But basically from April to June, if you look at that, India's GDP shrunk by 23.9%. And US GDP was shrunk by 32.9%. That is the only country whose GDP shrunk more than India in terms of percentage point. But one common theme from that particular chart is not any country apart from China is registered any growth in that particular quarter. And the other two charts basically talks about the unemployment ratios. So if you look at the bottom left chart here, it talks about the unemployment ratio of quarter two vis-a-vis last year, last quarter, or the other quarter two 2019. That is the red one. So if you look at that, almost all the country, the unemployment has grown in leaps and bounds. Those percentage points are really massive in the developed countries. And look at United States. Their unemployment has gone from 3.7% to 10.4%. This is the massive unemployment. I think one of the numbers Mr. Hui was talking about, right? In India, the unemployment during April and May, it was touching around 23.5%, and those statistics are from India's national stats, basically have just gathered. And if you talk about the impact on human lives, what we have seen is unprecedented level of human suffering. Specifically in India, there are massive reverse immigration. So we have got almost 45 45 million people, or 450 million people, or 4.45 crore people working on unorganized sectors, and out of which a majority of those people, they work in cities as laborers, and they're the migrant people. All right, they are faceless kind of thing, and they started to reverse migrate. They migrated from the cities to their villages, and it was a terrible human suffering we saw in pictures, we saw in news and stuff, and people have experienced that. So what it says is, with COVID-19, and it is not just about India, the whole world is reeling with a lot of pain in terms of economic crisis, in terms of labor issues, unemployment, and in terms of day-to-day life. People are not able to go out from their home because of the restrictions and stuff. So it has a severe impact on the socio-economic structure, the way we used to accustomed to before, nobody knows what is there in the future, how long it is going to take for us to recover, and I think that is where some of the thoughts are going, like, and I think Mr. Hui also talking about the recovery pattern and stuff, and to be honest, nobody can predict what is the recovery pattern is going to look like, right? So how the global economies responded to this, what is it? Yeah, so how did the global economies or major economies responded to this particular virus? It is more or less, you can say, a uncoordinated chaos, if you want to put it in a perspective, right? It is chaotic management of the disease, or management of the people, you can say. In US, the US remained in denial for a long time. The administration out there saying that it is just another flu. In UK, we experienced a lot of confusing statement by the administration. People talk about, okay, maintain, wash your hand and maintain social distance and stuff, but no clear-cut definition and no clear-cut guidance to the people what to react. In India, the administration imposed a severe restriction. So on March 24th, basically, India went into lockdown. And that lockdown, went on up to end of May. And what is the aftermath of, or what is the implication of, those kind of things, an unplanned or arbitrary, kind of impose of restrictions, not only in India, but across the globe. Somewhere it is less restrictive, somewhere it is punitive, but what it result in is basically, globally, some of the industry died. Travel industries suffered completely. Most of the organization, they are, reeling under administration right now. They don't have any money. Transport, hospitality, tourism, aviation, retail, they are the hardest hit industries across the globe. It is not just about India, across the world. All these industries are kind of reeling under depression, and basically most of these companies, they will go under administration. Administration means they'll basically tell them that we don't have any money, we cannot operate. All right. So 450 million jobs were lost in the unorganized sector in India during this period. 45 crore, you can say, and these are unofficial figures. In India, it resulted in mass immigration to the villages, and basically those people also bring in, viruses to the villages, and that is what we are going to see right now, or is already seeing that right now. It is impacting the people in villages too. So what we have seen so far globally is, it is the people in the bottom of the pyramid. They are the hardest hit people. Those who rely on earning money on a daily basis by going to work somewhere, and they cannot work remotely. They are the hardest hit people. They don't have any money to kind of survive, and the gap between the rich and the poor is widening. And we'll be talking about it in a bit, how that particular shape is looking like. But it is a tremendous human tragedy we are seeing all across the globe. The story is not just about India. It is similar or same in Africa. It is similar in developed country too. Though it is, meaning the social security in those developed countries probably is holding it back a little bit, but it is only thus far they can do, right? So what is what is about India? If you look at, if you dissect the India's GDP for Q1 2021, so that is basically, again, India's Q1 is US Q2. I'm used to US Q1, Q2 kind of thing, so I might mix up, but I'm talking about April to June time frame in India. And if you look this chart, apart from agriculture, all the sectors basically registered the negative growth. And agriculture is the only one that posted a positive growth as compared to the Q2 in 2019-20. But most of the hardest hit sectors, if you see there, construction, that heavily relies on labors, migrant labors from villages, it is hardest hit, minus 50% growth there. Basically, kind of the industry is reeling. The trade, hotel, transport, communication, that sector minus 47% growth, or basically contraction. And the theme is more or less similar in other countries too. I have highlighted number 7, that is financial, real estate, and professional services, that registered a negative growth of minus 5.3. And if you compare all those figures in the rightmost column, that is probably slightly better. Then there is a negative growth, but the negative growth is not as bad as others. And the IT, or information technology, as we know, that sector contributes, or contributes in that particular number 7 GDP numbers. Okay, so again, what I'm trying to say is, on this particular slide, in India, because of the unprecedented clampdown of human movement, because of the lockdown, that is expected that we suffered massive drop in the GDP, and that is what we did. But apart from the agriculture sector, probably financial services, real estate, and IT sector registered some numbers, some growth, or some kind of flattening out there, and that saved us. And we'll talk in a bit how that was possible by technology in a bit. Okay. So coming back to, and the reason I'm talking about IT is twofold. One is IT came as a savior during the COVID-19 situation. All over the world, people leverage IT in a big way. We'll be talking in a bit. And India, globally known as an IT major. And for there are good reasons of India being recognized as an IT superpower all over the world. There is a very good reason for that, right? How many of you heard about the name Sundar Pichai or Satya? Meaning, have you heard about Satya Nadella? You can unmute yourself and talk. But I'm assuming that many of you probably know Sundar Pichai. He is the CEO of Google, who is the kind of a largest mobile operating system manufacturer, mobile system operator in the world. So the Google is the inventor of the operating system you are running all your Android phone, right? And anything, basically, if somebody asks you a question you don't know, you say that, okay, let me Google it. So Google is synonymous to, search. Google is synonymous to, kind of knowing the unknowns. And of course, it is there in your mobile. And he is an Indian, basically. He's an IIT Kharagpur alumnus. Similarly, Satya Nadella, he's the CEO of Microsoft. So if you are using a laptop, with all probability, you are running Microsoft Windows. So that is the operating system that is powering your laptop. And Satya Nadella heads that company. So you can understand that what is the clout of Indian in the IT sector across the globe, specifically in Silicon Valley in the US. And the other thing is, Indian IT sector is pretty mature and old. It contributes 7.7% to India's GDP in 2017. These are NASSCOM numbers, by the way. NASSCOM is the industry body for IT in India. The aggregated revenue from IT sector was $199 billion in 2019. That is a big number. And the industry is growing. The compounded annual growth rate of the industry is 13%. That is massive. If you compare about India's GDP growth, right now it is single digit. Last year it was close to 5%, whereas IT is growing at 13%. That is a massive jump. It employs around 4 million people directly and 10 million people indirectly. The more important fact about these people is these are the middle class, burgeoning middle class of India. If you talk about many people in Bangalore, in Pune, in Mumbai, that what are they doing? with all probability, you will be hearing that, okay, I'm working in IT. So they are working in this particular sector. They are earning good amount of money because the IT pays them well. And they are spending a lot of money in India. And that is how the economy, is oiled. So these people are oiling the economy day in, day out in India. If you think about it, that doesn't mean that people from other sectors are not. But these are the middle sectors of India. They are kind of spending a lot of money from their earning. They're young people, and they have got high ambition too. However, the Indian IT sector primarily consists of only two components. One is IT services, the other is business process outsourcing or BPO. If you don't know, Bengaluru is called as the back office of Wall Street. Wall Street is where the New York Stock Exchange exists. Like in India, the Mumbai Stock Exchange is in Dalal Street. In New York, the New York NYSE or New York Stock Exchange is in Wall Street, and Bengaluru is called as the back office of Wall Street, because most of the post processing of the trades that occurs in Wall Street happens in Bengaluru. Okay, so that is the clout of IT sector globally, and specifically in US market. If you go to the Silicon Valley, which basically the west coast of America, most of the people you will meet, almost around 50% of the people who are working in the IT sector probably is from India or South Asia. Indian percentage is much higher as compared to the other Asian or South Asian people. That is the clout IT sector has got, right? Now, what IT did during COVID, this is a slide. It is kind of, I love this particular slide while I was making actually so much of emotion that was running across, while I was kind of creating this particular slide, and some of the pictures I took, and there is a story behind every single picture probably, right? Just to give you some perspective about this picture before I talk about every single picture on this one. Do I have another 10-15 minutes? Okay, good. I probably will be able to complete. So just to give you some perspective. By the way, you already experience IT in your daily life. I believe all of you have got smartphone or some kind of a electronic device by virtue of which you are connected to this particular Zoom meeting, right? So you already experience IT in, day out. You don't probably give it a kind of a attention that, okay, you are unknowingly using some service which is ingrained into your daily life. But that is what is IT. That is enabling you to connect. That is enabling you to, kind of go to Google and search for something. That is enabling you to study remotely from home. That is enabling you to study work from home. So all these things are basically services provided by information technology. Just to give you some perspective, in Morgan Stanley, in the height of this COVID-19, 95%, we have a population of 65,000 employees globally. 95% of these employees are working from home. You can imagine how big that number is. And all these people, they usually work from office. They're working from home by, let's say, April, May timeframe. That is a big number. And enabling those people working from home as if they're in the office is not a small task. It is a massive achievement by Morgan Stanley. And it is not just about Morgan Stanley. Most of the bank in Wall Street, most of the banks in Europe, and even in India, all the people were working from home, and IT enabled that. And now, how it translates into business, surely you can think of that there should be some negative impact on the business. I can give you the numbers. Q2, that is April to June, Q2 is in US term, is the best quarter in Morgan Stanley history of 85 years. That is the number we get. So our business was thriving because of market volatility. Morgan Stanley does a lot of trading for themselves as well as for their clients. When the market is volatile, meaning if you guys are aware about share markets, how it works, if the market is volatile because of whatever the sentiment, it is negative, positive, then the market goes for wild swinging up and down and those kind of things. That is when people like Morgan Stanley make money. Q2 this year, April to June, was the best quarter in Morgan Stanley history. Okay, Q1 was good, but Q2 was stellar. So we achieved all those revenues without going to the office, and technology enabled us to do that, right? So the first picture talks about remote working. Here is a lady basically working from her kitchen. How nice it is, meaning she is working as if she's in the office, but she is actually in the kitchen, right? It is interesting, technology is enabling her to do that. The middle picture is talking about distance learning. This picture is basically a girl from Kerala. She is sitting on top of her top of the roof of her house because the signal was poor. And you can see that she is studying, sitting on top of the house. The pictures are self-explanatory. The telehealthcare, online shopping, online entertainment, digital payment, all these things are basically connected to IT, and it allows people to function. It allows the business to function. It allows the student to study without much loss. It allows people to take healthcare. It allows people to do shopping. So all the heart of this, the business as usual stuff was the information technology, which acted as an enabler during the whole pandemic. And in the middle is where we talked about cloud computing. That is basically the services. It is hosted anywhere in the world. You really don't know. For example, this Zoom meeting we are on, the services is hosted in US, in one of the data center, probably in Amazon AWS. We don't know. We don't care. We are availing the services. That is what is important for us. And that is what IT is all about. It is enabling people to live their life, even if with the most adverse conditions. Okay. So what is the impact of COVID-19 on the global IT sector financially, right? So I was told, or rather kind of, because this is a topic on economics, I was kind of tempted to touch upon certain charts. I'm not an expert, so if you ask me on questions or certain stuff, probably I'll not be able to answer you, but this graph is self-explanatory. This is talking about 3 indices. The middle one is S&P 500, so SPX is S&P 500 or Standard & Poor 500. That is an exchange tracker in the US. The bottom one is the DJI or Dow Jones Industrial Average. And the top one is basically the tech sectors index in the US market. All these 3 are in the US market related. And again, as you know, most of the big companies on the world, wherever they are, they're registered in one of those exchanges in US, like Infosys is registered in DJI or Dow Jones. So what you see out here is the pandemic happened in March somewhere here, and the market crashed. All of them crashed. They went to rock bottom, right? Minus 30%. Then the market started to bounce back when the pandemic sink in, people try to understand the impact of it or gauge the impact of it. The market tried to bounce back. But what happens to DJI or S&P is basically they're gradually coming back to life. Look at the technology sector. They bounced back. Right now, some of the technology companies, they are at their lifetime high level. And the reason they are at the lifetime high level is people are appreciating their contribution during this pandemic, and they are expecting them to grow from strength to strength as the days passes and in the coming days. Okay. So not all the things are bad, to be honest, during the COVID, right? So IT sector in particular has done well. How about India? So look at the left-hand side chart. It is the BSE Sensex. Yes, we dropped similar time frame during the March and April time frame. It nosedived. It is trying to coming back up. It is still not there. Look at the IT index in BSE. It nosedived too during March, and it came back up. But then around the result of Q1 or around July time frame, they bounced back because the results were more than expected, more than expectation of the street. So they bounced back. They are now running at their lifetime high. Okay. So what is it giving? The picture it is giving is, not all the sectors are doing very badly. There are sectors which are giving us hope. And again, I fully agree that the stock market is not the one index that gives you the health of the economy. However, it is a marker. It basically runs with the sentiment of the people, the sentiment of the investors, and the health of the companies. So it is definitely a marker, and we can use it as a marker for how the economy is going to perform probably in the short to medium term. That is probably the theme of this particular seminar, right? So in a nutshell, IT sector is doing well, and we expect them to do even better in the coming days, right? So if you do the comparison of the earnings, again, similar charts, TCS and Infosys. Of course, TCS did see a slump. So they basically, their net income was less than the Q1 in 2019-2020, and the earning per share was less. But it is not as bad. If you see the percentage term, it is probably how much? Around 10% or 15% lower in the earning per share terms. But Infosys has done really, really well. Infosys has grown. So that is what is indicated by the share price jump here after the Q2 or Q1 result declaration, and TCS is still going up, though it is not as much as Infosys. Again, all these are indicators that IT as an industry in India is growing, and we believe that it can sustain the growth in the coming days to come. Okay, what is the road ahead then? Meaning, where are we with respect to the COVID situation, the health of the economy? What are we thinking about? How it is going to span out in the next probably few months or a year to come? Nobody knows, to be honest. Path to recovery, with the best guess, people are saying all over the world, the path to recovery is going to be long. It is going to be painful. Remember, this is a lifetime. This event is a once in lifetime event, and I think Mr. Hui was talking about the financial crisis in 2007 and 8 timeframe. That was only one sector that was impacted, which was the financial sector. It was a subprime crisis in America that snowballed the economy all over the world, and it is only the financial sector that was impacted. Not other sectors were really impacted. However, that led to credit crunch, that led to liquidity issue, and we suffer a big slump in the economy. However, the whole world, because it is a single problem, it is a non-problem, and it was impacting only one sector, the whole world came together. All the G8 members, they meet, and they come up with a stimulus package. They come up with a proper mechanism to restore the economy, and that was really, really quick. And that is what is called a V-shaped recovery. The economy went down like a jup, and then it come back up. It bounced back up similarly at the similar speed. So it is a V-shaped recovery we saw during that time. However, COVID-19 is a pandemic, right? Different countries is having different impact in terms of human life loss to human lives, in terms of loss to human livelihood, in terms of industry, in terms of so many other factors. It is not just one industry, but across the industry, across the board, we are seeing the impact. Therefore, nobody can gauge how soon or how delayed the recovery will look like. But one thing for certain is going to be bumpy. It is certainly going to be painful. So what we're seeing in India is probably a K-shaped recovery. That is, I don't know whether you have heard about K-shaped recovery or not. There are articles about it. So what we are seeing out here is, as the economy is opening up, the big companies, the big firms, the rich people, they are doing far better, right? And if you see this whole scenario, right, who are the people who are able to work from home? The people who can work from home are the people with white collar jobs. People who do blue collar jobs, they cannot work from home. They have to go to the factories. They are the bottom of the pyramid. So rich people become richer, poor people become poorer. That is what called K-shaped recovery. And anybody who is able to recognize this person here, you can talk. If you, I don't mind talking, but you know this person, he is Mr. Ambani. He's the richest person in India, right? By the way, are you people able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, it was so quiet actually. Sometimes it feels like I'm just talking to myself. So please chime in if you want. So what this particular graph is showing is, in India, we are seeing a K-shaped recovery. The rich people are getting richer and the poor people are getting poorer, and that is where you need the policy intervention. You need monetary policy, you need fiscal policy, you need economic stimulus, you need labor laws to make sure, you need social security to be kind of given to those people so that they are not left out. Remember, we are a country of 1.4 billion people, and out of which more than 50% of the people kind of remain, or they're the bottom of the pyramid. They are the people, they work for factories, they work in the agriculture sectors, and they give us food, they give us stuff we need on a day-to-day basis. They keep us running, and we cannot leave them out. That is when you need to improve the liquidity and credit. You need to give loan to the small scale industries in a reasonable rate. All those tax, you can give tax holidays, you can give loan moratorium and stuff, but targeting to those people who are basically dire need of those, right? It is not Ambani, it is not about Adanis, it is about the people who are bottom of the pyramid. We need to care for them, right? Now, that is about economy. I'm not an economist. I'm not going to talk much about it. It will simply look foolish. That is from my own observation and reading different articles and newspapers and stuff, and keeping on top of that one. I like the rather I not only me. I think we value people's lives, and that is when I think the whole thing about social social thing comes into play. How are you going to tackle this thing? It is not over yet. In India, we are seeing almost 100,000 infections a day. Now, we cannot live in lockdown. So lockdown is not an option. People need to go out and work. However, we should have clear guidance to people how to maintain social distancing, how to do their day job without a fear of being infected. Yes, there will be fear of infection, but it is the infection is more acute, or people who are vulnerable are basically old age people or people with preconditions. I'm not saying that young people without any conditions are not dying. They are, but they're very tiny percentage of the people, and the people die in accident too. But the government should come up with a clear-cut guidance to the people how they will go with their day jobs, how will they maintain the social distancing. So make those things available, encourage people to carry on their day job while maintaining the safety for their own and for their own people. We need to improve the domestic supply chain. One thing that was broken during the lockdown was supply chain. People were not getting essentials, even food and stuff. You need to work on that one, and the government policymakers need to think about all these things, how to make stuff available to people without much hassle. Use technology as an enabler. Most of the developed countries, they are using technology as an enabler for their business, for education, for everything we do. In India, we are doing it. We are not there yet, but promote it. Meaning, you need to. Now, I think people have understood the importance of technology, use of it in every sphere of life. I don't think any meaning students, I'm specifically talking to you, when you come to the college in January, in the wildest of your dream, you ever thought that, okay, I'll be studying remotely. I'll be joining a webinar from my phone from home in, let's say, September or in April? Never. Nobody thought about it, but you did, right? Technology enabled you to do that. Use it in a big way to your advantage, right? Embrace the new way of life. This picture, Donald Trump is basically doing namaste to, I think, his counterpart of Canada. It is a nice gesture. And one thing I love to put this here is because it is a kind of Indian way of telling people hi or hello. But this is going to be the new way of life. The way we socialize, the way we meet friends, the way we organize functions, for example, marriage and stuff, is going to change, or rather we should change it for the better of us. We cannot have 1,000 people coming into a function and then getting them infected, right? So I think we need to embrace the new way of life, and people will embrace it. Globally, the country probably will redraw their priorities, how they're going to function, how they're going to do business with other countries. So I believe there are the people, the countries will be doing inward looking. So they will be they'll be kind of relying more heavily on their domestic consumption as opposed to export probably. But look, the whole world is connected. The economies are connected. You cannot change it in one day. So I don't think it is going to change in a single day, but I think slowly and gradually, probably countries will look inwards. Similar to what Mr. Modi is talking about, like Make in India, and many rhetoric is being heard from US as well. And there is already a friction between US and China about the trade imbalance and stuff. 30 minutes is very small time to talk about those stuff, but those are interesting things. You should kind of remain aware about what is happening around you. So I will not touch upon this one. I'm already over. There are a lot of opportunities for IT sectors. Sorry. So there are a lot of opportunities for IT sectors to improve. IT sector is not just about services and BPO, what India is doing right now. We can make India a powerhouse of manufacturing, not only for IT, but for other stuff. China is the manufacturing hub or factory of the world, and they have not been that in a year or two. They have been working since 1990 or early 1990s, you can talk about. So 30 years, they took 30 years to make China as a powerhouse in manufacturing, as a factory of the world. India need policy, incentivize the company who are manufacturing the goods in India and exporting them to the world. I think India's policymakers need to be bold. They need to be visionary. They need to make sure that India right now in a very good position to position themselves as the manufacturing hub of the world for quite a few obvious reasons. The whole world is kind of pissed off with China. They don't want to do business with China for few reasons. One is business with China is so skewed in favor of China. Every country has got a trade imbalance with China. China is trade surplus. The country who is doing business with China is running with a lot of trade negative. So for that matter, people don't like to kind of give business to China or import from China, but there is no other option. India can give a very good alternative, and India should see this opportunity what COVID-19 has thrown upon us, right? So one more thing, I'll talk about the last one. India should promote diversity, inclusion, and corporate social responsibilities. What is diversity? We are not open enough for women to work in the workplace. I'm not sure how Indian firms are doing in terms of diversity of gender, but if you talk about any developed countries, almost 50% people work in different places, including the floor shop, including the factories. They're women. We should empower them. We should embrace them in the workplace. The good thing about female employees are basically they bring in a lot of spirit, a lot of vibe into the environment, and they are very, very diligent in their work. We have seen this in China. We have seen this in all the developed countries. In India, we have not given them a secure workplace to work. I think massive stride has to be done in there to make the workplace safer, to make the environment safer for the women employee to work. Remember, 50% of the population of India, working population of India, are female. Without them, we cannot simply, grow. So, my final and closing thoughts. Meaning, I'll leave with you two pictures. Two are basically contrast pictures. Kind of, I'm too emotional because in the core of my heart, I'm an Indian. And these two pictures are basically taken from India, right? So undoubtedly, COVID-19 has damaged the world economy and damaged the economy of India. It ought to. It is a pandemic. It impacted so many lives, every sphere of life rather. So it has done its damage. It is doing its damage. It is simply unavoidable, probably, apart from, I think, 2 or 3 countries. And apart from China, other countries are too small. All the countries are dealing with this. Yes, we have our own share of sufferings. I think the most important part, apart from economy, is it is the suffering on the population at large, and specifically the poor people. They suffered a lot. And it will be a crime if the country doesn't do anything to alleviate their pain going forward. However, if you look at these two pictures, in one picture we saw hundreds and thousands of people, or lakhs of people. They are helplessly sitting in a street waiting for their turn to come to go their home. It is a human tragedy of unimaginable scale. But look at the right side picture. Do you recognize this lady? She is Jyoti Kumari from Bihar. She cycled 700 miles, that is close to 1,200 kilometers from Delhi to Bihar, with her father, ailing father, in the back of her cycle. What does it give you in terms of human spirit? So we have seen unfathomable human tragedy, sufferings in one hand, in one picture. The other one is giving us, undeniable bravery, determination, and selflessness in this time of adversity. So with that, I'll leave. So guys, the COVID-19 is not going to die down in a day or two or a month or two. It is going to be there probably for a long haul. But eventually human spirit will prevail. We will win this race. Anyway, so stay safe, stay healthy, and keep people around you safe and healthy too. Thank you for listening me for more than 30 minutes. Sorry, I'm over by 12 minutes allotted to me, but that's it from me. If you have any question, you can send it across. I probably will be joining the Q&A for 15-20 minutes towards the end. I have to drop off because I have to log in and do my work.
Okay. So thank you very much, sir. While presenting regarding the impact of COVID-19 on global economy, you have highlighted many aspects like GDP, except China, world economy is in crisis. Everything you have highlighted, like nothing. About COVID-19, nothing is clear about the disease. And you have highlighted regarding the Q1 and Q2 also, where highlighting the Q1, you have highlighted one most important thing, that is except agriculture crisis. And the one most important thing you have highlighted regarding the IT sector, that means which contributed more that 7.7% from 2017 to 13% 2019 towards the G. And also you have highlighted regarding the how IT sector bounced back from the crisis. Also, most important, you have highlighted regarding the how you have connected the economy with emotion, right? Remote working places, working from home, distance learning, online shopping, all that things you have highlighted. And towards the end, you have highlighted regarding the V-shape recovery of economy, and also you have highlighted K-shape economy regarding our Indian context. That means richer are more and the poorer are become poorer day by day. So thank you very much, sir. It's an honor to listen to you. And you have highlighted many aspects. It's not possible to summarize in a very limited time, but we'll have session. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. So now she has joined now. So I'd like to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, ma'am, to have a special address. Over to you, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor, FM University. Ma'am, please unmute. Please, ma'am, unmute. Already. Yeah, ma'am, audible, ma'am.
Namaskar. A very good afternoon to you all. On behalf of Fakirman University, I must express that it's a very, very happy occasion for me, because continuously the RIHS Bhogarai College is organizing international webinars. And I was supposed to speak for a few minutes in the beginning, but it gave me also an opportunity to listen to our resource person, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Behera. So what a wonderful talk it was. And I was really fascinated to hear our resource person. So on behalf of Fakirman University also, I extend a hearty thanks to our resource person, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Behera. I must congratulate the principal and his entire team of young faculty, dynamic faculty members for organizing all these webinars. When we talk about COVID-19, we all know that it has shattered our life. So be it in our social life, cultural life, economic life, everything has been affected due to this COVID-19. So the economic condition of the India has also is in a shock. We know that economy of any nation is based on four pillars: consumption, manufacturing, export, and capital flow. Because the entire nation is in shutdown, lockdown, so consumption is at its minimal, and because we are not consuming as it was in our normal day-to-day life. Manufacturing is low because all the small scale, large scale industries are locked down. So there is, even if there is a demand for essential service, no one is able to produce and the supply chain is disrupted. Export and capital flows have also slowed down and they are in a paused mode. So when I talk about Indian economy, I think Indian government is trying to increase the demand and income in all small farmer, and the focus is on MSME, the micro, small, medium enterprises. Also, India government is trying to come up with the textile, gems, jewelry, pharma industries, engineering, electronics. In the future sectors, they are trying to come up and they are trying to bounce back to the normal situation. And what I see in India, the future energy sector, it will be based on, because we all know that the fossil fuels, the coal and petroleum, these are non-renewable resources and they will exhaust and it is not, we cannot renew again and again. So we have to opt for some alternative, non-conventional energy resources. And as we are in the tropical condition, so solar power is an excellent option for countries like India. So we are focusing on solar power. We are focusing on health services and healthcare. Next is to provide financial, food and livelihood support to the poor, and which are the most vulnerable sector of our society. I was just listening to the Mr. Sanjay Behera. He was talking about the care recovery, because the rich people, they are getting richer and the poor becomes poorer. So when we are talking about any policy decision, it should look at this point, not to make this disparity or the great divide between the rich and poor. All the policy decisions should look after, it should be an inclusive policy looking at from all sectors, and also it should look at the gender perspective also. So I think we should not panic a lot. This COVID situation will pass away, everything will come back, but that will not be the situation, or our life will not be as before. It will be a new normal life. We have to adapt to some new situations. We have to take some COVID guidelines also. We have to follow this in future. And with this, I really thank all our resource persons. Now I think Professor Kumar Das has joined, I think. Kumar Babu, namaskar. It is always a pleasure to see you and to listen to you. So on behalf of Fakirman University, I once again welcome Professor Kumar Das, and I think all the participants will enjoy his talk. And with this, I would like to thank again the esteemed principal, Mr. Giri, for RHS Bograi, for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and also to join you with this international webinar. Thank you so much.
So thanks a lot, ma'am. It's a pleasure and honor to listen to you, ma'am. You have highlighted many aspects regarding non-renewable resources like coal, petroleum. Also, you have highlighted regarding the crisis of textile and financial sector. Thank you very much, ma'am. It's a great pleasure to listen to you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. So now it's a time to request our another speaker from Delhi University, from Dr. Aradhana Nanda, ma'am, from Delhi University. Ma'am, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, yes. Very good afternoon. And I was listening to Vice Chancellor ma'am's brilliant speech. In fact, I think ma'am must be definitely from the economics background because she very vividly touched upon the real aspects of what the economy do's and don'ts for fighting this COVID and getting back to the normalcy. Well, I would say बहुत namaskar to all of you, and it is indeed a pleasure, me talking to you, and particularly it's after a long time meeting my Odia friends, and particularly on a very nice topic. May I take this opportunity to thank, first of all, as I've done, Professor Madhumita Das, the Vice Chancellor ma'am, the principal of RHIS, then esteemed Professor Kumarabora Das. In fact, he has been my sort of professor also when I was researching at Bani Vihar. And then Professor Manoj Hui, Dr. Dhirendra Jaina, Dr. Jagannath Kunar, who has been doing a warm introduction for everyone. We are just overwhelmed. And to the wonderful participants all around here. In fact, it is my proud privilege that we are deliberating on this contemporary topic, and I shall be sharing a PowerPoint presentation just to make things a real perspective and highlight some of the things. My presentation, I hope it's visible to all of you.
Yeah, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, so I was told to speak on the topic impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy and the strategies for handling the crisis. Well, the first speaker, Mr. Sanjay, has already spoken much of the things as regards, the most important sector, which has been actually making the economy, the world as well as India, to carry on with some business at least of making the economies alive through the IT sector. Had it not been for the IT, I think the world would have come to a standstill. So now let me just, okay. The first thing which I think we have already discussed, that we have had the origin of COVID to Wuhan in China, but thanks to globalization and trade and tourism and everything, you find the spread of COVID-19 was faster than any other disease prior to the world, like SARS, MERS, Ebola, and long back before, I think early 19th century, we had Spanish flu. So this brings about the deadliness, and I would say the difference of why COVID-19 shall be the most severe health crisis ever. So now I must give you a little bit about, that this COVID-19 has been one of the toughest challenge ever the world has seen. And in fact, it has been strongest in its impact, much bigger than the Great Depression of 1930. You may be seeing a graph, I think it's visible to you. We are trying to relate that the world economy is expected to shrink by about over 3% in this 2020, and it is the steepest slowdown since the Great Depression of the 1930s, and it's worse than the great financial crisis of 2008. So in all perspective, we are trying to put that the world will be definitely going back in terms of prosperity. There is a cumulative output loss and about $12 trillion, And this is going to be a big loss. And this speaks volume that the world will be taking time to recover and get things back to normalcy. So taking you to this interesting pic of IMF, which I have it for you, that is, it is going to, the public debt of the world in total will be so much that it will exceed the last war the world had fought, that is the World War II. And if you can see the diagram, we have two graphs of the curves of advanced economies and the emerging market economies, and you see the pillars, the World War I, World War II, and look at the curves, how they are positioned. Then you see the global financial crisis in 2008, and then the great lockdown. Why we call it great lockdown? Because the world had to do this, because the ill of the concept of COVID impact was so much so that the people around the world, the economies around the world, we had no choice but have to adopt and embrace lockdown. Now, as we understand that every country in fact has started with its strategy after the pandemic spread throughout the world, it has started adopting different ways, and most prominently it is the lockdown strategy. Now at this point I would like to share an interesting anecdote. That is, the lockdown has been adopted by most of the countries, but take one country like South Korea. Its GDP has not been much affected. You know why? Because it didn't adopt lockdown. It went for aggressive testing. It went for taking social distancing. It went for developing its health checking procedure, but didn't go for lockdown. So here we can say there exists good positive connection between lockdown and the growth of the GDP. Now let's, after understanding the world scene, we are going to the Indian economy state, where how it was prior to the pandemic. Pandemic has been a challenge. It will be a challenge for time to come. But Indian economy was, before pandemic, was also in problem. We had GDP which was slowing down. There was demand slowing down. The financial sector was in bad shape. There was the impact of global recession, which was posing external supply and demand constraint. There was disruption of supply chains, and unemployment rate in our country is at 45-year-old high. And at the same time, the government at the central was fighting a fiscal deficit, which was around 4.6% of the GDP. Now, at the outset, let me tell you, we have a Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act 2003, as per which the government has to have a control over fiscal deficit. And when we talk about a 4.6%, it has already crossed. And now let me very briefly talk to you what explains this aggregate demand fall down. As we understand, aggregate demands important components of consumption, investment, government expenditure, and exports. You find during that is prior to pandemic, Indian economy, the major components of aggregate demand, consumption, investment, exports were falling. And this were really a bad sign, because you find once the economy gets to a lower point of having a lower aggregate demand, the other aspect, that is already aggregate supply side, we're also suffering from some shocks, also internal constraints and structural rigidities. So these two factors were combining together to have an impact on the slow GDP growth. Now, at the economics understanding level, as that's for students, private consumption and investment contribute about 90% to GDP. So, and government spending is about 10 to 12% of the GDP. That is the total aggregate demand. Every 1% decline in consumption and investment requires a 8 to 9% increase in government spending to keep the GDP at the same level. Now you understand why the GDP was not being maintained at a high level. Now, coming to the next part, counterpart, that is the supply chain disruptions. Now, supply chain disruption is a major factor. You find it was happening both internally as well as externally also. We had issues happening from the global recession, which was permeating through trade to different countries, and India was also part of that because we import lots of cheap imports from China. So once this aggregate demand and supply sides are affected, you will find it is going to penetrate and affect the domestic industries, investment, employment, income, consumption, and finally the aggregate growth rate of the economy. So this is the scene regarding the aggregate demand. Now coming to the part that in Indian economy, as I pointed out, that already the financial sector was in bad shape. Now we all understand, I have penned down in very briefly, that is Indian banking sector, which are the backbone of the Indian economy, were suffering on account of the rising NPAs. Now you find if banks are suffering, then the credit disbursal and the economic growth will be affected. Now banks were suffering from rising NPA and were dealing with the twin balance sheet the stress, that is this is due to the NPAs as well as over leverage and financially weak firms in the private sector. So banks internally had their own struggling problems, and this went in, penetrated and showed in weak credit creation. Meanwhile, government was doing its step. Government took a lot of steps to address this banking crisis. You find there were some 10 banks where they were put together under prompt corrective action framework. This was the weak banks were checked, and then there was CBI and CBC. They were doing the task of checking the defaulting firms and officers and who were involved to do corrupt practices and lend to insolvent and uncredit worthy people. And there was the insolvency and bankruptcy code also, which was there to also help out in making the health back to normalcy. Now, to add to the trouble of the banking sector, we are talking about the financial system. The NPA crisis was there. There was another big blow from the big, NBFC company, that is ILFS, and which defaulted its debt. So this was another problem, and it added to the further financial problems of the economy. And banks, therefore, became very risk averse, and they started being very conscious and in their lending to the economy, lending to the corporate sector. Now you understand how investment was affected. If the businessman they don't get loans if they they are the banks are being stringent, they are afraid to lend forward, then the next consequently investment and production will be affected, and therefore the economic growth of the country. Now the other constant for the Indian economy, we are talking about before the pre-COVID situation. Indian economy was fighting, as we talked about, that fiscal deficit. I have already mentioned in the beginning, the fiscal deficit has to be under control. So the government, if it wants to do expenditure, it has to carry out developmental stuff, then it has to either have good, good revenues coming up, or it has not touch the limit of its fiscal deficit. So the point is, it had both the problems. Revenues were falling because public sector enterprises were not doing well, and there was falling tax collection, so revenue was not doing well. So you find ability of the government to support the economy was greatly affected. So in simple words, the economy had fiscal constraint to prior to the pandemic. Now, the next figure, the graph shows you the trajectory of Indian growth. You find how the GDP has been, downslide. The downslide continues, from Q4 FY18. If we take up to Q4 FY20, there has been almost from 7.91 to 3.1. The fact of the matter is that the background, the pre-COVID situation, already we were in dire straits. We were not doing well. Aggregate demand was low. The banks were in bad shape. Then there was fiscal constraint, and to add to it, there was internationally pressure due to global recession. So all this was permeating and affecting the Indian growth story. So you find the GDP is on a continuous downward slide. Now, coming to the pandemic. Now, the pandemic, when it came in to the world, it in fact, it was like an unprecedented shock. And everywhere, the world was really shattered. And here we find it was leading to combination of two crises. Already we had an economic slowdown and problems and crisis, and now comes a formidable challenge in form of health crisis. So I call it as the twin crisis, that is the economic crisis and the health crisis. Now, before I go to the next of the strategies, what the government has done, very briefly, I have some points which is very important, because in this present COVID world, the international bodies like IMF, World Bank, and other ADBs and other international lending institutions, they have a great responsibility. So some of the points like which the IMF chief, Kristalina Georgieva, she's pointed out that important 4 things. That is, first one, continue with essential containment measures and support for the health system. Secondly, shield affected people and firms with large, timely, targeted fiscal and financial sector measures. Thirdly, reduce stress to the financial system and avoid contagion. And fourthly, must plan for recovery and must minimize the potential scaring effects of the crisis through policy action. Now, you see all these 4 points which the IMF chief has responsibly put is going to affect the rest of the policy actions of all member countries, including India. So India, first case, now we are coming to the topic, that is India. How did India took up the challenge to face the crisis? Now, we know the first COVID case was detected on January 30, 2020, and we did start. India action was very prompt. We did implement surveillance as early as 17th January, before even the first case was officially detected. Government did announce travel advisories, restrictions, so very responsible step. And Prime Minister Modi did announce an experimental 14-hour Janta curfew on March 22nd, and India went into a lockdown on March 24th, 2020. So this was the preliminary steps, how we started, and we finally plunged into the lockdown thing. Now, before we discuss what lockdown, we need to focus on a little bit thing that there's a human cost or a human spread becomes an important factor. Why countries went for lockdown? If economic cost and human cost are very high, what does the country do? Now, country like India, we did decide for a lockdown, understanding that we will definitely go for a downspin in the economic growth. Now, different countries, as I mentioned to you earlier, that South Korea had a different strategy. South Korea is still maintaining a good economic GDP growth rate. So we had our thoughts in our mind that lives matter, lives versus livelihood will be the trade-off. So, and we understand the possibility of vaccine coming up was during the month of March was still uncertain, and there was a dearth of ideas to handle quarantine and extent of health arrangement. India also, which spends 1.5% of the GDP in health, India was ill prepared to take up the crisis. So I think our Prime Minister did take up the good decision of going for the lockdown, and the lockdown was intended to check the spread of the virus and also to meanwhile prepare the health system. I stress the word prepare the health system to meet the emergency. And this was in together the action plan to tackle the crisis. Now, every policy decision comes with a lot of cost. Now, when the lockdown was announced, it brought in the lives versus livelihood debate. Now you understand, if you want to save lives, then we have to do some measures which will have to chuck off their livelihood. As you see that Indian economy had those terrible crises of migrant management, and later on, of course, things came to a smooth management. So the economy decided to go for a lockdown state with only essential services, and that was a hard decision to make, which the consequences may be detrimental to the economy, but effective containment of the disease was requiring at that point of time. And given the nature of the economy, where 90% of the workforce is employed in the informal sector, you find the lockdown announcement sort of wreaked havoc. It was really this thing. Now, very big challenge for the economy. Every state had to cooperate. Now, before we go to the next of the things, I would like to talk to you a little bit about the informal sector. The informal sector is employing 90% of the workforce, so you can understand how important it is, and it's roughly contributing about 40%, 45% of the GDP. And this lockdown decision, which was sudden, of course, brought in severe impact on millions of low-income migrant workers and daily wage workers. And you find these class of people who have uncertain jobs, no savings, no guidance, no financial help, they had uncertain future. They had to go to the villages, which we call the concept of reverse migration. They went to the villages while the villages were still not ready. They had the poor health infrastructure. So there came the tough challenge for the government of India to tackle the migrants issue. The migrants first thing was to how they will reach their villages. In the beginning, it was a big chaos. We find on televisions and everywhere they were showing pictures of crowds and chaos. But ultimately, things went to like making smooth management. And the first thing the government had to do is to take care of the food requirement, that is food and nutrition, that is rationing. Now, the things which government, which is important for today's discussion, is we are going to understand and discuss a little bit about the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan package, which was announced by the Prime Minister on May 12. And basically, this was a combination of fiscal support, monetary support, ease of doing business, as well as some fundamental reforms. Now, the Atmanirbhar package was a stimulus package. At the same time, let me share with you, in other parts of the globe also, countries were coming up with similar stimulus package because the problem was same. But India's case was different. We have a peculiar 90% of the workforce in the informal sector. But for us, it has to be a little bit, more humanistic and more deep. So Prime Minister Modi announced a stimulus package of 20 lakh crore, which is said to be equivalent to 10% of India's GDP. And that was the aim of making the country independent against to handle the tough competition in the global supply chain, as well as, more important, to help empowering the poor, laborers, migrants who have been adversely affected by the COVID-19. Now the package started basically from March only. Officially, they made it announcement that May 12, they announced that this is a package comprising of 20 lakh crores and sort of. But already they had started on March 26 with the announcement of the 1.7 lakh crore package, which was announced on March 26th, 2020. And this largely aimed at providing the safety net for those who were worst affected by COVID-19. We are talking about the unorganized sector worker, daily wage workers. And basically this was bringing in the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana with all those inclusion, free additional 5 kg wheat, rice to persons for 3 months, 1 kg free pulse, free LPG for Ujjwala beneficiary for 3 months, then rupees 20,000 to farmers under Prime Minister Kisan Yojana, increase in Manrega wages from 202 rupees to 182 rupees. Then this is important, rupees 500 per month to 200 million female Jan Dhan account holders for the next 3 months. Then DBT to old people and widows under Ujjwala Yojana. Then ex gratia to senior citizens. Then the government has 20 lakh collateral free loans to women self-help groups. Then government various measures which you have here. All this spoke about the initial step. They did start officially the Atmanirbhar started in March 26, though officially the name was given on May 12. Now in between, let me share with you the Prime Minister Care program. That is actually the Prime Minister Citizens Assistance and Relief Care in Emergency Situations Fund was created on March 28th. So it shows that the government was also trying to collect donations and contribution for people, and this was basically with the objective to handle the COVID situation. Now, as we have already discussed, that the May 12th was heralding the announcement officially of the Atmanirbhar stimulus package. And so the first set of relief measures, which was announced by the FM Nirmala Sitharaman, she focused on enabling the first relief for the MSME, that is the small, medium, and the enterprises that employ around 11 crore people and have a big share, and the figures you understand. Then she announced a few announcements, that is 3 lakh collateral for loans and 50,000 crore equity infusions for MSME. It is said that out of the 16 announcement which was made by the finance minister in the first tranche, 6 were dedicated to MSME. That is important, understanding that MSME has a great contribution towards employment. Now, coming to the next, as we understand, MSME is highly cash dependent and already was affected by demonetization, because these sectors actually deal with cash and liquids. So these sectors were having problems since demonetization, when you had the sudden banning of the currencies, and also some issues relating to the GST compliance. So MSME sectors was given the prior importance in the first tranche. Then the other things, as we have already talked, then there was subordinate debt scheme for MSME, where you find aims to support the stress MSME, which have NPAs. And this, they will be given debt-free loans from the banks, which will be infused into the MSME as equity. So now you understand these strategy with government decides under the first tranche, we will require a role for government also and the banks also. So if the banks are not healthy and the banks are not interested to go ahead in lending, then I think here a little bit of disarrangement could happen. But hopefully let's see that things are getting solved out, and government is still with ongoing reforms, and banks will be doing needful what is required to help the MSME. Now, they did something for the under the first tranche for the NBFCs. We have already talked about NBFCs. ILFS started the problem, and NBFCs, the sector of NBFC was under scanner, and so a special liquidity scheme was announced under which 30,000 crore of investment will be made by the government in both primary and secondary market transaction in investment grade debt paper of NBFC and HFCs and microfinance institutions. And the central government is going to provide 100% guarantee. So the technical details talks about that government and the banks are going to come in to collaborate and help the NBFC as well. So coming to the next one, under the Prime Minister Garib Kalyan Yojana, the government pays 12% of the employee's contribution and 12% of employee into the EPF account. So you find that this will be continued for 3 more months, and in fact the time has ended. We don't know if the government has extended. So this is going to help both employer and the employees. Now, as regards statutory PF contribution also, I think here also the government will do something that is helping them for the next 3 months. It ends in August. I think given the fact that the COVID is getting more uncertain, so government will come for more extension of these schemes which we are discussing. Now coming to the next part for street vendors, the government under the first tranche, a special scheme was for the street vendors where they will be taking up some small business working capital up to 10,000, and this is going to be very helpful because a big chunk of people are under this. Now coming to the second tranche, now Nirmala Sitharaman second tranche cater to the migrant workers and the street vendors as well. So the concept of one nation, one card was brought in to help the migrant workers to buy ration from any depot in the country. There was a problem. Some got stranded, some went to the villages, and they didn't have a particular ration card. So what to do? So the government did come in the process to bring in the concept of one nation, one ration card. And then a special credit facility of 5,000 crore was announced to support 50 lakh street vendors. This was in addition to what was done in the first tranche. Then the government brought in close to 2 lakh crore to farmers, to Kishan credit cards, and helping the fishermen and animal husbandry farmers would be able to get institutional credit at concessional rate. Now here again, I repeat that this brings in again role of the banks and the government. They have to coordinate with the local authorities and help the needy. So the government allowed states to fund the food and shelter facilities to migrant workers from the disaster response fund, and that would cost about 11,000 crores to the center. The third tranche was about 1.5 lakh crore, and this was the third tranche was focusing on agriculture and the allied sector, including the dairy, animal husbandry, fisheries, and the government announced steps to to help the overall farm sector. Now, the big good thing was that the finance minister announced a 1 lakh crore agriculture infrastructure fund for the farm gate infrastructure, using it for setting up cold chains and post-harvest management infrastructure. Now, this would facilitate, farmers selling directly to the buyers also. So this is one good step. Other key announcement made by the minister included 20,000 to be provided to the fishermen through the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Now, there were many small, 10,000 score scheme for micro food enterprises. Then beekeeping initiatives also got good. These are all coming under your allied sectors. Improving supply chains for fruits and vegetables. Then another good step was there was amendment to the Essential Commodities Act to enable better price realization to farmers, and agriculture marketing reforms to provide marketing choice to farmers. And then there was the announcement of agriculture produce price and quality assurance. The much needed facilitative legal framework will be created to enable farmers to engage with processors, aggregators, large retailers, exporters in a fair and transparent manner. Now, this is basically on keeping in fact that the agriculture is again the backbone of the economy. And let me share with you, out of all the sectors, agriculture is doing well because we in India, we depend a lot on rainfall, and the production, it is heard that it is going to be good. So the food and security, nutrition security side, we are assured that there will be a good bumper harvest, and India will have no problem regarding the food supply. Now, going to the next tranche, that is the fourth one. The fourth tranche of the 20 lakh crore package comprised of reforms for sectors like the coal, mineral, defense, air, space management, the space sector, and atomic energy. So you find these fourth tranches basically talking about also inviting private companies in many sectors which were earlier not allowed. And another important step announced by the finance minister, the borrowing limits of the state governments will be increased from 3 to 5% of the gross state domestic product for the year 2021. And this is great because this will facilitate extra resources for the state who are doing their own fights for tackling the migrants issue and the COVID situations at home. So this is going to benefit the state and have a great coordination between the center and the state in managing the COVID crisis better. Now, the last tranche, under the last and the fifth tranche, the finance minister announced an additional 40,000 crore for the MNREGA, that is a Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act for job creation in the rural areas. The government had earlier allocated 60,000 crore in the budget that was in early March. So Sitaraman also announced formulation of a new public sector enterprises policy. This would allow for consolidation of the PSU firms in the strategic firms. And each sector would have up to 4 such firms, while state-owned enterprises will be privatized. Now, what is important here is that already this was on agenda. Indian economy was having some reform proposal. This is what we are discussing under the fifth tranche. Now, coming to the next point, for improved ease of doing business among MSME, the finance minister extended the initiation period of fresh insolvency proceedings against MSME by 6 months, to up to 1 year. Default category. So you find the specific reasons of COVID-19 gave to the all this our Atmanirbhar strategy in 5 tranche. Government did in through fiscal, monetary, and few macroeconomic reforms. Now the real concern. Now the government has done its needful. It has announced a policy. It is doing follow-up. Now the real concerns from my side. Okay, now the pandemic, first point is the pandemic is still strong and the vaccine is not ready. So the full scale of the pandemic, the policy response to combat the COVID-19 is still unclear because we have not reached the peak. It's still uncertain. So in the longer term, what is required is investment in health infrastructure primarily, and ensuring continuity of regular health services and improving health emergency preparedness. So first thing, this is first concern. Now, second concern, unemployment, which was already now 45-year-old high. It's a big headache, falling GDP and rising unemployment. So India has to cautiously adjust spending, attract industrial investment, take up policy reforms, and address rising unemployment, this is a very important concern. Now, the third concern from my side is we are already have a declining saving rate. Now, as per RBI reports, the gross domestic saving rate had decreased from 30.1% of GDP in 2018-19 has from 32.4 in 2017-18. So you understand the saving rate is falling. The saving rate of the household sector has declined from 23.6% of GDP in 11-12 to 18.2%. Now you find gross domestic saving is falling, and out of it, the household sector is the largest contributor. The household sector contribution has fallen from 23.6% to 18.2%. And the government relies a lot, as I've already mentioned, is the biggest source for funding the developmental plans. So you find this does not bode well for the economy. The government is losing out on a large source of borrowing, which it does from the household sector. So declining saving rate is a concern. Now, as the fourth concern of mine is there's a possibility of monetization of fiscal deficit. Already we have discussed for fiscal deficit is 4.6 and has crossed the FRBM limitation of 3% of the budget. So now we understand that there is a possibility, and it may so happen that government might, go for monetizing its fiscal debt. Now the concern is that if we monetize, then it will have an impact on the inflation and the subsequent borrowing rate for the private sector. This is again going to impact investment and in GDP in the long run. So monetization of fiscal deficit will be a concern. Now, the next concern of mine is that we are now in a new normal. So it will take time, the consumer behavior will take time to normalize. Even after the economic activity resumes gradually, we will take time to get adjusted to the earlier normal. So the consumer behavior will take time, and this will have an impact on the market. Now, there might be a pickup activity which would be uneven, because some pent-up demand may lead to surge in spending in some sectors like retail, sectors like, you have travel, tourism, hospitality. They are going to be depressed for a long period, unknown period. And as regards firms, since there will be no demand, they are unclear about the demand. So they will also reduce their output, and when output is affected, the hiring will also be affected. So this is the concern. Now, coming to the conclusion, the understanding is that the real magnitude of the twin crisis will depend on the duration and severity of the health crisis, the duration of the lockdown, and the manner in which the situation unfolds. The second point will be the crisis also presents an opportunity. Taking it positively, it's an opportunity as well to accelerate the shift to a more productive, sustainable, and equitable growth through investment in new green and digital technology, which Mr. Sanjay was talking in the first presentation. Yes. And all efforts to, yes.
Ma'am, can you please conclude, ma'am?
Yeah. All efforts should be made to resolve trade and technology tensions, and the IMF and World Bank are doing the needful, as we have already talked. And we don't know whether the recovery will be L-shaped, V-shaped, U-shaped, or W-shaped. It is uncertain, but sure we will revert back to, it will take time, but we'll revert back to the old normal. So there is a need for close coordination and communication between the center and the state and the local government. We need to build up our food and nutritional security. We need to informal sectors, strengthen the MSME sectors. We need to expedite the structural reforms. We need to improve institutional quality, governance structure, and also the most important, taking corruption and leakages with zero tolerance. So all the above measures which we have discussed, along with the supply side reforms, will spur aggregate demand, which has been lagging behind largely. And let us accept that this COVID has impacted the world at large, but mankind will win this battle. Thank you.
आराध्या मैम से
Thank you very much, ma'am.
पोस्टरটা বাজলো না এর মিউট করেছিস না
Please mute your audio.
অপশন নাই
All, please mute your audio. Hello. Please mute your audio. So thank you very much, ma'am. You have enlightened us with many different aspects, like GDP from which is growth, means growth rate is very slow down, employment aspects, and also you have highlighted the twin crisis like economic crisis, health crisis, as well as you have highlighted the IMF in the International Monetary Fund, the Kristalina Georgieva viewpoint, like the essential containment and a timely target to fiscal deficit crisis. All that things you have highlighted. Also, you have simultaneously highlighted the MSME, the role of MSME regarding the employment and equitability issue. Also, you have highlighted the microfinance, all that thing. Thank you very much, ma'am. It's a nice deliberate talk. Thanks a lot, ma'am, and we'll have you in the last session. Thank you very much, ma'am. So now it's the time to welcome our next speaker, and who is from abroad, and Professor Boris Petrovic from Moscow University, Russia, with your topic lack of compatibility in managing COVID. So over to you, sir. Professor Boris Petrovic. So, is it audible to you, sir? Professor Boris Petrovic. Professor Boris Petrovic. Okay. So sorry for the inconvenience. Because of some technical errors, he might not connected with us. And now we have with us Professor Kumar Bordas, a chief guest, economist, and ex-vice chancellor for Kermon University, with the topic impact of corona on economy and society. So it's a great pleasure to listen to you, sir. I have not attended any classes or anything, but I heard many things about you, sir. It's a great pleasure to listen to you, sir. Over to you, sir. Our chief guest, Professor Kumar Bordas. Sir, is it audible, sir?
Oh,
hello.
Could I show my presentation, please? Share screen.
Namaskar. Yeah. So, thanks.
Should I continue?
Professor Boris Petrovic, he has connected with us. So it's a great pleasure to listen to you, sir. Correct.
Should I continue?
Sir, sorry for the
Yes, sure.
Hello?
I will be the next.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you. So, thank you, Professor, Principal of the college, other colleagues, Vice Chancellor, Fakir Mohn University, Madhumita Madam, and all other participants and delegates, all participants and media persons, and my dear students and scholars, particularly the previous speaker, Professor Sanjay, and Aradhana Nanda, Dr. Aradhana Nanda. They are all just like my students. And Professor from Moscow, all are present, and I am very happy that these two presentations before me were very exhaustive, very revealing, and full of information, full of data, and they have covered almost everything. Therefore, it is very easy for me to not to touch on the data, not to say anything on the statistics about GDP, fiscal deficit, or anything. They have covered almost everything which I thought to cover. So I'm very happy that they have covered all these things. So now I have a different perspective. I have a different perspective, a different line of thought, which I can share within 30 minutes, because and also let me make it clear, I'll not use any statistics, number one. Number two, I don't have any political or leaning or any ism. I don't believe in any ism. Simply in an objective manner, even intellectualism. Even I discard intellectualism, because rationality of the intellectuals is also not reality. Intellectuals, they are rational. Man is rational, intellectuals are most rational. So what I'm saying, rationality is not reality, neither reality nor relevance. Relevance is a different question. Your quality of your research, quality of your presentation, quality of anybody, any professor in Harvard or Oxford, may be the best qualitative presentation. But I am questioning about relevance. I'm questioning about relevance. He may be very logical, very inductive, deductive in everything. They are rational, but I am questioning the pertinence of the theme, pertinence of the statements, that I am questioning, and therefore from the beginning I have a different perspective. Therefore I am happy that the presentations were very nice, they are exhaustive, and I congratulate Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Aradhana for doing the job very nicely. Very nice. The presentation was very, very effective, very good. So we must understand this COVID is a crisis, no doubt, but it is unprecedented and it is of different type, different variety. It's not like tsunami. It's not like super cyclone or Fukushima gas tragedy or any earthquake, or it is a different catastrophe. It is a total disaster. Whether it is natural or man-made, we don't debate on.
Sir, you have muted audio, sir. Can you unmute, sir?
It's okay?
Yes, sir. It's audible now.
It's okay, audible?
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Till now it was not audible? Till now? Okay. So this crisis is a different type of crisis, because it is not like Fukushima's crisis or tsunami or super cyclone or super flood, which requires relief measures only. But this requires not relief measure. This requires to open the eyes. Because why it is different? Because it is unprecedented and it is associated with world economic crisis, world slowdown, world recession, which was going on prior to COVID, number one. Number two, it is also associated with climate change. The climate change crisis is going on. It is more serious than COVID. Three crises together, therefore it is of different type, and therefore it is therefore it is expected of the mankind to do a different resurrection of thought, to think a different line. So it is very much disastrous, it's very serious. At this juncture, the three crises are continuing, and COVID is unending malady. We have to live with it as Ebola or HIV or SARS. Yes, something happened. Then whole country, state government or central government, they are busy with the shutdowns, lockdowns, then opening up, relief measures, and the central government, state government have done wonderful remedial measures and relief measures to curb the effect of COVID. And there are short-term effect and long-term effect, social effect, social and economic impact. There is short-term impact, a long-term economic and social impact, social consequences. And most affected sectors are tourism, aviation, and railway, and hotel industries and hospitality industry. And medium affected industries are petrochemicals, and least affected is pharmaceuticals and others. And these things are so obvious. You don't have to give you statistics, because if I go on leading with the statistics, the audience, the students, most of the participants are students. They will feel bored. And statistics, I don't use purposefully. Being an economist, I avoid statistics in almost all seminars, because I have a broader context. Statistics are not only boring, not only concealing, but also misleading. I do not want to lose my focus by diverting the attention of the audience towards statistics, towards I have main slides, but slides will divert the attention, and people will sleep and people will go away. And when it is economic seminar, knowledge and rationality gives us a correct understanding that we admit. Knowledge and our rationality gives us a correct understanding. Rationality says about living, about food, about livelihood, about occupation, about earning, about our income, how to have a high standard of living. But wisdom gives us a correct priority. Wisdom says life is the first priority, living is the second priority. Living and life both are complementary. If you say, then that complementarity, that concept itself hides.
Sir, your audio is muted, sir. Sir.
It's okay?
It's audible now.
Oh, why it is mute? So, our rationality, our knowledge, our research, so many researchers, so many scholars around the globe, around the country, you find our rationality says living is important, standard of living is important, materialistic life is important. But our wisdom says our correct priority. Wisdom says life is the first priority, living is the second. Rationality says father, mother, complementary. But wisdom says mother is first. Mother is first. Underline, because I am a male. I am talking against the male. Father, mother are complementary. If you say, that is a misleading statement, because there you lose focus that mother is the first priority. Without mother, there is no father. Without the soil, there is no tree. But there is soil always without tree. Soil exists without tree, but tree does not exist without soil. Science can disprove my statement, but what I'm saying, the truth is this. So in the name of health problem, it is not correct to make economy to suffer. Life and living are inextricably connected. That we understand. Economic crisis is going to exacerbate. Of late, government has given importance to both life and living. Now unlock process has started already in almost all states, and abruptly, when we make lockdown abruptly and mindlessly, it has serious economic costs in terms of losing livelihood, losing jobs, so many things, and particularly the poor people, they suffered a lot for the whole life. Their living pattern, their life, total, everything is shattered. Then let us focus on different sectors. Before focusing on different sectors, the impact of COVID on different sectors, before that, we must put the discussion in the background of the economic development which is going on, which is focusing on aggressive consumerism, vulgar consumerism. As a result of this dualistic model, we accepted the privatization policy, and India is signing Bharat ? Bharat is signing or not, that we have to. Vulgar materialistic display of life, it has unfolded the reality now. The fragile economic development, there is no economic resilience, weak livelihood system and economic insecurity. The marginalization process continues and vulnerable process has been aggravated, and government is relegated to the background. Now the government is coming as a relief distributor, as a welfare, just adopting some welfare measures to bring them from different places, from different countries, and that is a side work. That is wonderfully government has done it. But that is not the main work. Main work is development. Main work is to integrate those people in the national mainstream of economy. Mainstream of the economy, they must be integrated. When these workers, they came back from different countries, from Saudi Arabia, they were working. Most of them are on skill and semi-skill. When they return back to Odisha, to India, what is their future? What they will do? Again, they are now thinking to go back. Now they are thinking to go back. So that thing has to be managed properly, and the government should realize how the economy is so weak that these people are forced to go abroad. They're forced to go outside the state. So this is really same for the state economy, state government and the national government. If the workers are going by choice, that is different. If the workers are going by choice to other states, that is different. But this is not by choice. This is forced migration. Forced migration, and they have now returned back to their own state because of the fear of death. And when they return back, now after 3 months, they are now still thinking of going back. Some of them have already gone back. So that has to be seen the broader perspective of economic development. Developing countries are suffering more than the developed countries. Developed countries, the death rate or the COVID affected people are more, definitely. Now India is going to be number 1. But what I'm saying, the impact on Indian economy will be serious, will be very serious, will be far-reaching than American economy, than Italian economy, than any European economy. They will survive. They will tomorrow they will prosper, and they will come to the normalcy very soon. But Indian economy is going to be affected seriously for decades. This impact will continue, and still today we don't know how long the COVID will continue. It is not post-COVID analysis. It is COVID is going on. It is not post-COVID. COVID is now going on. Debate is going on, and we are elite class. We are busy in the seminars, but the people those who suffer, we don't address their suffering. We discuss, analyze, project. We show our pedantry. But we discuss, but the reality is somewhere else. So the agricultural sectors, let us see what has happened. It is wrong to say that agriculture is very limited sector. It's very small sector. It cannot absorb the people. It has no scope. It has no strength to lead the economy, and there is high demand. But now there is high demand for organic food materials. Whole sectors suffers from farm crisis and farmers crisis. There are two different crises. One is demand side crisis, other is supply side crisis. Farmers suffered more due to loss of livelihood, low productivity, high indebtedness, and low demand in the market, and they lost their livelihood, their occupation. And the marginal farmers, landless farmers, are suffering more due to COVID. Particularly, the best example is our state. Our province is the best example where the marginal farmers and small farmers, landless farmers, their number is 80%, 80. It is, and the large farmers question we are addressing about large farmers, but we never thought of what is the fate of small farmers and landless workers, those who have no land but they are farmers. So this large-scale migration and forced migration which occurred, and reverse migration occurred, and then the drama started. In the drama, three players are there. One is laborer, second is the company where they were working, and the third is the government. These three were three actors in the drama. The laborer is now going back, and after spreading the COVID, spread of COVID became very serious because of this. They returned from distant places, and COVID multiplied in the state or in the local economy, in the village economy. But government has been doing only relief work, and it is not thinking that it has to be indispensable. Its role is indispensable in the process of development. it is still thinking that it has to be solved by the market, free market policy. The laboring class are those who return back to the villages. They are borrowing money. They are from the money lenders. They have distressed sale of cattle, land, distressed sale of many items just to survive. And they mortgage the children, they mortgage the land, mortgage the cattle to get some money to just to live. Then this sector where they're taking shelter, that is suffering already. This is highly unproductive sector, and the green revolution which we adopted, that is the result of our past rationality. Green revolution is the height of imitation, and it was so myopic and so irrelevant that it suffered from environmental crisis, which is hungry for fertilizer and pesticide and thirsty for water. And we adopted mechanization process and modernization process. Modernization led to mechanization, mechanization led to tractorization, which is totally wrong process in this country, totally irrelevant process, not relevant. Productivity has increased, but farmers' fate and fortune of farmer has not improved. And now we are adopting corporatization of the agriculture, which is not the answer. It is not the answer. We are never thinking of self-reliant village economy, and the dignity of the farmers, dignity of the workers are never respected till now, never emphasized by any government, by any policy regime. So this is the fate of the agricultural sector. Now there is heavy demand for organic foods, and the agricultural sector has lot of opportunity: horticulture, floriculture, goatery, fishery, and the bovine economy, and so many peripheral activities, non-farm activities are there in the village that we never thought. They were never emphasized. The small-scale industries, the cottage industries we have dismantled. That is, unfortunately, that is not with us. And but we are referring to China again and again. But China has developed a small-scale sector and household industries in China, but there is nothing in India. In India, we are thinking of corporatizing, privatizing, commercializing the economy, and we are making digitization of the economy. Digital India, Skill India, Make in India, Stand Up India. We are making so many political rhetorics, but reality is not the thing that we are making slogans, political slogans. Then next is, let us say, industrial sector. Industrial sector has remained regionally concentrated till today. Be it socialistic economy we followed, Russian economy we followed for 40 years. That was a hoax. That was wrong. That was wrong by following the Russian method of development, central planning. That during those days, big dams, big industries, giant industries grew up. Nalco, Balco, Cell, ISCO, Tesco, all these things developed. Big industries developed, but it never generated the process of industrialization. The base of industries, base of industrialization remained very, very slender, very weak. And we till now, after privatization in 1991, when the LPG model came, then we followed American economy of privatizing everything, putting everything to the market and giving everything to the corporate sector. But the common thing remained. The continuity did not. We could not break the continuity. The continuity is economic growth. Economic growth remains sacrosanct till today. Economic growth is killing us. Economic growth is killing the whole economy, which cannot face any catastrophe, any disaster like COVID or any catastrophe. Any super cyclone also breaks the backbone of any economy. A super cyclone, in a super flood, every year it occurs. Drought occurs every year. It breaks the backbone of any regional or local economy. Therefore, now we are emphasizing on corporate sector, which is focusing on efficiency. Efficiency has increased. Productivity has increased. Profitability has increased. Production has increased. Productivity, technology is very high. We have adopted everything in the corporate sector, and we have adopted 2 jungle laws: survival of the fittest and struggle for existence. These 2 jungle laws we adopted, and the large-scale industries, we brought again large-scale industries, because our focus is on economic growth. Economic growth is the hallmark of this privatization or liberalization or globalization or central planning. Central planning was equally bad because it could not deliver the goods. State failed for 40 years. Now, 30 years After 40 years, we have already completed 30 years from 1991. It is almost 30 years. It is sufficiently sufficient to make a review, make a appraisal of what has happened over last 30 years, 3 decades already gone. So what we have done, we have broken our small-scale industries. Also, small-scale industries are now suffering because of COVID. There are both demand-side and supply-side problems, and we are making deindustrialization through deindustrialization because we are making breaking our industrial base, and only still we are discussing having the focus on large-scale industries, Bhel, Sale, Tisco, ISCO. Everything is present in Odisha or in Jharkhand, which was previous Bihar. All big industries are found in Jharkhand or in Odisha. But these two states are the most poor state in the whole country. Most poor, economically most backward, and industrially backward also. It is not industrially developed state, neither Odisha nor Bihar nor Jharkhand. But these two states are full of natural resources, and that we call it industrialization is happening. It is not industrialization, it is only industry, is only a number game. Number of industries has increased, but industrialization has not started till now. It has not commenced. Industrialization means, what is industrialization? Industrialization does not refer to a number. It may be 100,000 industries. One chief minister was telling 1,000 industries in 1,000 days. That was a wrong perception, wrong idea. Behind that came from our rationality, our rational planners, our economists, my fraternity professors from my fraternity. They recommended all those things in the state and the central level also. They are telling that number will give you industries, number of industries. Number game is not the desirable thing for the society. Industrialization means linkage. Industrialization means a synergy. Auxiliary activities, auxiliarization and ancillation is necessary. Linkage, forward linkage and backward linkage must be established with any industries. Therefore, big industry is not necessary. Small industry with linkage is necessary. Therefore, in this state, Punjab, for example, in this country, Punjab, for example, Punjab is a state which has no big industries. There is no big industry to cite. To give an example, a big industry in Punjab, there is nothing. But Punjab is economically advanced, industrially advanced, and in the standard of living in everything, Punjab and Haryana, they are number one. They don't have any industries. But Odisha is proud of Bhel, Sale, Tisco, ISCO, Hal. So everything we have, we are proud of resources, proud of our industries, but there is no industrialization because it only emphasizes on automation. It only emphasizes on skill-intensive activities and capital-intensive activities, technology, technology-intensive, high-tech. High-tech has no height. It is heightless high-tech because it's not for the people, not of the people. It is the technology has come from abroad and we borrowed that and we borrowed money, we imported, and our BOP, balance of payment crisis, goes on increasing because of this high-tech. We never understand why BOP is worsening day by day, particularly after COVID. It has gone like it has increased like anything. There is no need of statistics. There is no need of giving a statistic that it has increased this percentage. Obviously it has become worse. Therefore, this is because of the high-tech concept. High-tech concept, that is, we are neglecting our manufacturing sector perennially. Perpetually, we have neglected the manufacturing sector, but we are citing examples of China. China is very strong in industrialization. China is truly industrial, having industrialization, and it is doing something in the big steps it has taken in manufacturing sector. But in India is only, hello, what happened? Hello? Yes. Yeah. India is only, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir,
Yes.
you are audible, sir. Audible, sir.
So just I am trying to correlate everything, and I will complete within 10 minutes or 15 minutes maximum.
So please be with us. There is a technical error from our speaker side. Please be with us. Please connecting.
Could you see my presentation?
Yeah, sir, it's visible, sir. So sorry for the inconvenience, and our speaker disconnected, and because of which now over to Professor Boris Petrovic. Sir, please, sir.
Could you see it?
Yeah, it's visible, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the hosts, and thank you for invitation for this event.
Most
I
welcome.
have a presentation about accounting for COVID, since I'm a demographer and the accounting is the major subject for us. And the impact of COVID on global economy is a byproduct of this. I will say how it works in Russia and perhaps in Europe. In Russia, we have so-called the operational headquarters in each region. According to President Putin, he decentralized the management of the COVID epidemic. So the operational headquarters report on daily cases, the daily cases of infections, of deaths, and sometimes heavy cases which require an artificial ventilation of lungs. And they also report on recoveries. What do they report? They report registrations, not occurrences. A registration may have, and it does have a delay. So if, for instance, if we have a death which took place on Monday, so it could report it on next Monday or in several days. But it is not the major obstacle. The major obstacle is the definition of the case. And the case is infection, death, or recovery. So the definition changes. In Russia, it has changed several times. First, it was those who arrived to Russia from the countries which have a big epidemic. That means that not all countries were involved in this, but just a few, mainly of European region, mainly Italy and Spain. Then the definition changed, and those who were positively tested are becoming COVID cases, and then with symptoms of COVID, but no testing. So that means that a definition of COVID reflects the technology of healthcare. All the definitions suggest different attitudes toward those who became sick and require isolation. Isolation in any form, in a hospital or at home. When a number of infections had overrun the hospital capacities, a sick person may stay at home, and this changed the definition. Then he should isolate himself or herself from other people, including his or her family or household. And it seems that it works in favor of epidemic, but it doesn't. Because the epidemic is huge, so it also stops the epidemic. So it means that the epidemic is not comparable in time due to changes in definition. They could not compare what we have in the beginning and what we have now. It is also hardly comparable between nations or other administrative units. As my first point was that each region in Russia, we have 85 regions. So each region has its own operative headquarters, and it is hardly to compare the data from one region with the data from another region. Does it mean that we are not able to understand the pandemic of COVID-19? No, it does not. We just have we have a must to take it into account. The pandemic is rather young, less than 1 year old. That means that we just starting to understand how it works. There are no vaccine and no understandable adequate treatment of the disease. And it arises the fear. The fear is a bad consultant. Thus, the impact on the global economy is more a consequence of inadequate rulers' measures and less of COVID itself. So I would like to say that the fear rules the government and the administration, and they undertake some measures which are not adequate against the epidemic and against the economy. How do demographers measure the COVID impact? They do it in terms of lost lives. They compare an expected number of deaths and observed number of deaths. And the major problem in this approach is measuring the excess, which is not necessarily the excess of deaths in relation to expected number of deaths. So the major problem is to calculate, to estimate the expected number of deaths. And this is mainly done on an annual basis. But the epidemic is younger than 1 year. So we could, in Russia, we expect to produce the first estimates of the epidemic in 1921 or 2021, sorry. That's all. Thank you for invitation and your attention. If you have question, please send it to me. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. And you have highlighted the demographic point of view, that means the loss of life in terms of COVID-19. And we'll have a discussion session towards the last. And it will be a great pleasure for us if you will be with us for the last session, sir. It's a request, it's a kind request to you. You'll be with us if you will be with us for the last session for a question and answer session. We are noting down the question.
Okay, I see the chat if yes, there is some questions.
Yes, sir. We are noting down the questions. All the 4 speakers will be on the last session, and we'll have a discussion that who is asking what and to whom we'll discuss that, sir. And now our previous speaker want to speak a few lines, so we are connecting to him, sir. So can you bear with us, sir? Will you please, sir? So it's a time to continue our last presentation from Professor Kumar Bordas, sir. So over to you, sir. Hello. Over to you, sir. Professor Kumar Bordas, sir. Professor Kumar Bordas, sir. Hello. Sir, is it audible to you, Professor Kumar Bordas, sir? So, so over to Professor Kumar Bordas, sir. So please be with us. Sir is connecting. So there is a network problem, I think. Sir is connecting. So please be with us. Connect करो. Sir is connecting, so please be with us for few minutes. So please be with us. No, sir, I will come with me. ମୁଁ କିଛି କରିନି ସାର୍ ଏଇଠି ଆସିବ ସାର୍ ଏଇଠି ଆସିବ
ନାଇଁ ସାର୍ ଲିଭ୍ କରିବେନି ସାର୍ ଲିଭ୍ କରିବେ ସାର୍ ଲିଭ୍ କରିବେନି ଆପଣଙ୍କ ସାର୍ ନେଟୱାର୍କ କଣ ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ରହୁଛି ସତ ଲାଗୁଛି ହେଲା ପାର୍ଟିସିପାଣ୍ଟ
କଣ ନିର୍ଦ୍ଦେଶ ଏଟା କଣ ବିଶେଷ ନା ପଠେଇଲେ ମତେ please be with us. Sir is connecting. So because of some problem, it's connecting. Sir is connecting. Please be with us. So, sir is with us. Professor Kumar Das sir is with us, our chief guest. So, over to you, sir. Over to you, sir. So, sir is connecting. It's joining. Network problem do sir. Now continue. I'm very sorry, participants. Sir has tried a lot, but because of network problem, he might not connected with us. So now it's a time to discuss some questions and what you have asked already, and we have note down that questions. And for that, I'd like to request Dr. Virendra Kumar Jena to carry over this session. Over to Dr. Jena. Please tell the name of the participant who asked the question, as well as the question and to whom he is asking or she is asking. Over to Dr. Jena. Over to Dr. Jena. Yes, just unmute your audio, Dr. Jena. Yes, you can unmute. Do it.
Your host is not allowed.
Yes, I have allowed you. Just unmute your audio.
No.
Okay. Good afternoon to you all. Respected chief guest of this webinar, Professor Dr. Kumar Das sir. Respected Boris Denisov from Russia, Moscow University. Then respected Ma'am Nanda Ma'am from Delhi University. And our Sanjay Kumar sir from UK. So it's a privilege from my part to take part in interaction session regarding question and answer. So we have collected many questions has been put to the speakers on the. I will present all these questions one by one, talking the name of the resource persons they have mentioned. First of all, I may go to Sanjay sir, Sanjay Behra from London, UK. Sir, one question has been put by Kailash Chandra Das. His question is, do you think that, hello, Sanjay sir is there?
Yeah, audible. Yeah.
I'm there, sorry. Go ahead.
Sanjay sir is
Yes.
there?
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
I heard it. Okay, I heard you. Okay. So his question is, do you think that IT is going to be a sure substitute in the adverse situation of COVID-19?
Sorry, who asked that question? Can I have his name or her name?
Kailash Chandra Das.
Okay, thanks Kailash for asking that question. And before I answer that question, can I request, again, don't call me sir, you can call by my first name, that is Sanjay. I'll be more than happy. I don't like to be called as sir. We should call sir only to the teachers, and that the teachers are you guys. I can call you sir, but don't call me sir. I don't teach anybody.
Okay.
Again,
it's your highness.
Okay, so I think I'm not sure whether IT can substitute anything. IT is always a complementary, technology is always a complementary thing, right? So just give you some example. In the earlier days, people used to do open heart surgery, for the surgery itself, you need to open somebody's heart and then do the stuff manually. Technology enabled them to be performed using robots, which is more safe to do an operation, right? Similarly, IT is something that enables business. So, for example, all of you guys, you have joined remotely. You are not in the college itself. You are not in an auditorium to listen to this over here. And technology or IT is enabling that to happen. Okay. Can people mute themselves? It's a bit distraction. Sorry for everyone.
Hello.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you go back to the Q&A then? Okay. So what I was saying is, IT is a complementary sector. It helps doing business. It helps to do things more efficiently. It improves or boosts the productivity. It enables people to do stuff they otherwise do using more effort, more resources and stuff. So it is certainly not going to replace anything. It is going to complement whatever the stuff you're going to do in future. It is already complementing a lot, but there are technology that is evolving that is going to be more prevalent and helping people to do to be more productive. For example, artificial intelligence, machine learning, AI/ML they call it, or data warehousing or cloud computing. These are the complementary technology that is evolving around the world, and people are using them to their advantage, right? So it is going to complement rather than compete or replace anything, if that makes sense.
So in this aspect, I have a question that do you more emphasize on IT in spite of agricultural sphere, which is basic sphere and which is a sustainable sphere to sustain the human life? Do you put more emphasis in the present time or in ultra modern time?
I'll give you an example. I think it was in around late 1990s and 2000. Do you guys know ITC? The company in India, it is a tobacco company, right? Do you guys know about it? They basically produce cigarettes.
Yes.
Right.
Tobacco.
So around late 1990s and early 2000, they wanted to diversify, right? They wanted to diversify to food, specifically biscuits and basic, like the FMCG kind of thing, the food products. And the one thing they wanted to do is, so while they're producing food, they wanted to know exactly how it is being produced, where it is being produced, how much fertilizers that is being used for that particular product while they're being produced, and whether there is any pesticide being used or not. And for that, what they did is they called something called eChopal. So it's basically a network connectivity to the farmer and giving them all the know-how that how to produce the stuff more efficiently in larger quantity with less fertilizer, less pesticides, so that the food quality is good, the produce is more, so that it is a win-win situation not only for ITC but for the farmer. So the farmer gets know-how. Sometimes they finance them too, but more importantly, the farmer get the know-how by IT enabling. I mean, IT enabled that they got those information via some kind of a networked resources, and they produce more from their whatever the allotted land they have got. They produced more, and at the same time they could sell directly to ITC, and ITC was benefited by able to trace the food and its ingredients. So it is a win-win situation both for both the farmer as well as the farm. So to answer your question, what I'm trying to say is you don't have to put emphasis more on one sector and the other. Utilize IT to improve your farm output, right? You can do that in many different ways. People used to plow using bullock in the past. Now we use tractor more than the bullock. So what happens is the plowing has to be done anyway to do the, what is it called, cultivation. You replace the bullock by tractor because it gives you more productivity. Use IT to boost your productivity. You don't have to replace the farm because there is something, the food is something that is a basic necessity. You need food at the end of the day, but use IT or use technology to boost that productivity, if that makes sense.
Yes. So just countering to your presentation, just one thing you told that earlier there was a bullock cart, use of bullock cart in the agricultural sphere, but nowadays there is tractors. But there is allegations on behalf of the intellectuals and especially supporting the peasants movement and farmers issues that they are talking that again a second feudalism has been reached. That means those who are landlords at the time, they have established corporation to produce chemical fertilizers and using science and technology to produce equipments, agricultural equipments, and they are trapping to the poor farmers, and the poor farmers are being trapped, and ultimately they are committing suicide as they are falling out of the standard. That means when they don't fight out their situation, at that time they are committing suicides, and that's a reason for farmer suicide. How can you justify it?
Okay, so I think we're talking two different things. The farmer suicide, the reason is not that we are using technology or boosting the farm produce. The problem probably is somewhere else. So if you are giving a medicine to a particular patient, you need to identify the disease itself in the first place, right? So what is the disease? Why the farmer is committing suicide? It is not because somebody is producing more than him, or somebody is utilizing technology to produce more than what he is doing, right? You will be always left out if you don't do that. I think most of the farmers, they are suiciding is because they are trapped in debt. And that is where the policymakers has to come into play. You need to protect the bottom of the pyramid. That is what I was emphasizing on that. That cannot happen just if people want that. That is not going to happen. The policy decision has to be made so that how we'll be able to protect our small farmers. It is a similar thing what we are doing right now to protect the small, the grocery shops, and we call it mom and dad shop, right? So the big companies like Amazon or Reliance, if you don't protect the small shops, then they will basically kind of eat into their pie of the business, and they will be basically forced out of their profession. Now, other thing I would like to add, we need to have an equitable education system, right? We cannot have 25% or 30% of our population relying solely on cultivation. That is simply not efficient. You don't need really that many number of people to do cultivation, and you cannot do that. Globally, that is not the trend, right? So what you need to do is you need to have equitable education where you give education to the people in a way that they can do other work. So what we have created so far in the education system is it's kind of the study itself is disconnected from the actual work we do in the field, regardless of what we do. For example, I have been working in IT. I only studied about IT after I graduated from my engineering college, right? If you ask about your students what they're going to do, whatever they're going to do, probably there is a disconnect between the study they're doing at the university, at the college, and what they're going to actually do in the real life. We need to have that connection established so that more and more people can go out of cultivation and do more work in the other areas where we see potential growth. For example, manufacturing, for example, IT, for example, finance, and in other areas. So again, we should depend on less people to produce more, and we should take those human resources and put them into industries where we see that there is more values.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Next question is to Aradhana ma'am. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Aradhana ma'am is there?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay. So this question has been put by Sorojini and Dr. Sukanto Patra. The same question has been put. Then the question is, what type of policies should be taken by the government to improve the socio-economic life of marginal and the small farmers during the post-pandemic period? Hello,
okay,
ma'am.
Can I start?
Okay. So again, just I'm repeating.
Yeah.
Just I'm repeating. The question has been put by both, that is Sarojini and Dr. Sukanto Kumar Patra. What type of policies should be taken by the government to improve the socio-economic life of marginal and small farmers during the period? And one suggestion has been given by Dr. Sukanto Kumar Patra, then formation of a producer organization. Will it be relevant?
Yeah, a very good question. In fact, already efforts in this direction has been started by the government. Understanding that agriculture employs huge population, but the contribution to the GDP is around, I think, less than 15%. So the small and marginal farmers' plight is lingering from a long time, and the recent reforms like Essential Commodities Act and APMC Act being scrapped, I think this will help and give some independence to the small and marginal farmers who can take their produce and directly sell and not be in the trap of middlemen and earn good earnings. So this is one way which will ensure the the socioeconomic condition being improved. Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Yeah. So now this is one way. Secondly, I would take up the point from Professor KB Das. He did talk about that we have had industrialization in not true sense of the term. So we can think of, taking have the industries which are started somewhere near to the rural areas, having their backward and forward linkages, and they can take extend to the rural areas and in remote inside areas where you find the small and marginal farmers. In case they are not getting good returns, they can be having an option to join as workers working in the industry which are associated with some products which are agriculture or allied products. And we have already had value added industries happening in some areas of the country, but though it has not happened in a big way. So these are options, I think, which will help the small and marginal farmers to definitely grab a good chance to ameliorate their socio-economic condition. Is it fine?
Okay.
And and then they had a concept of PPO, producers organization, that is already happening, and I think this is the good way. I think with IT and other enabling factor, there is a great this kind of linkage happening between farmers, and they are able to realize their real potential through having information coming to them, and as regards to getting seeds, etc., and also to the selling of the produce. Does that make sense?
Okay, ma'am.
So sorry, this is Sanjay here again. I just want to add some point to that, and thank you, ma'am, for answering that question. I think that was really superb. I think one of the challenges we will have in India too, even if we have association and the producer directly go and sell it in the market, the storage and transport is a big problem, right? So we don't have proper storage mechanism in the villages or where actually the vegetables or the farm goods are produced. So if you don't have storage and if they cannot be sold in a particular time, you basically lose those produce. And that basically kind of detrimental to the income of the poorer people. There are some interesting stories that come up sometimes in newspaper and stuff, and the community storage space, cold storage space being developed by some maybe engineers or somebody. They are utilizing again technology to regulate the temperatures and those kind of stuff. And that community storage space can be utilized by the producer, and they pay normally based on how much they use. So I think there are few challenges we need to solve to make sure that the farmers get their fair fair price for the produce they produce, and we can make them have a sustainable life only from farm produce too. I think the policy at the same time, there should be a linkage between the technological advancement that has already happened, so that people can utilize or leverage technology to improve their quality of life too, even if they are the farmers. But we can help them out in this way, if that makes sense.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for adding this. And I have a question. To Aradhana, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am, it's a beautiful presentation. You have presented pretty well. And during your presentation, you have addressed one issue, that is twin crisis, health crisis and as well as economic crisis. How can you address this issue in the context of the developing country like India?
Sir, actually there is an echo with your voice. I don't know if it is with others. With my system, it is an echo.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
could you please repeat the question?
Yeah, ma'am. Is it audible clearly?
Yeah, now it's better.
Yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, during your presentation, you have added one issue, that is twin crisis.
Yes.
And as a country, developing country like India, how can we address this issue, like economic issue and the health issue? How can we address?
Okay, now since this economic crisis was already prior to the pandemic, which we have discussed, in fact, it has been lingering for quite a while. Already the economy was doing measures, taking measures to come up how to tackle this issue. There were reforms already being taken, perennially happening. So economic crisis was already in focus. In the last budget also, Sitaraman brought in some proposals, and then over a period of time, as a matter of long-term policy also, we are doing it. Now the point is that every country in the world was already reeling under the world global economic recession, and India was also part of that. So it was nothing new. So along with that, when the COVID crisis come, as I quoted it as a twin crisis, in the sense that we now have to be more humanist. Government has to do more for the poor and the deprived. All right. So here government has to think of, managing. It's about managing. It's about managing. The government is already under trouble. It is having falling revenue. It is exceeded its fiscal deficit. So the heights of deficit, the double crisis means more responsibility. So it comes that government will have to take certain measures to control its own unproductive expenditure. Right, small, जैसे बोलते बूंद से सिंधु बनता है. It has already started, stopping production of calendars, paper calendars, dex table, and all that. So and checking, brought in MPs allowances and other stuff. So it has started in a piecemeal method, right? So this is about saving resources. So once you realize and you take up a style which you feel you have to release resources to look into the crisis, so both the crises can be simultaneously managed. That is about it. So this is nothing common to India, it is with other countries, but for India it is common because India had peculiar problem. Prior to that, we had 45-year-old high rate of unemployment, we had falling resources, we had other issues, and the banking crisis, and so on and so forth. So I think as we have discussed, that challenges will make us stronger. So I hope Indians and the world at large, we get back to the back to the new normal, and it will happen. So that's about it. It's about managing. Did it make sense?
Please unmute, sir. Unmute. No, not it. It's not audible. No, sir, it's not audible, sir. So, well, sit.
Yeah. Madam? Yes, good evening, madam. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes, you are audible.
Madam, I want to ask you one question, that India's economic stimulus package is 10% of GDP. And World Economic Forum has stated that there is concern that the size of packages may prove insufficient for the duration of the crisis.
Yes.
Then Modi ji has said about the 2020 package, 20 lakh crore rupees is given. So is that, do you think that is sufficient for 130 crore people of India?
So,
to solve?
so it is not sufficient because given the mammoth size of the problem and the huge population, and as we discussed, 90% work in the informal sector. So that big chunk needs support. They are poor people. They don't have any social security. And on the other hand, I will, sir, put your question to you. What thought you had when you had Modi ji telling 5 trillion economy by 2024? We believe that. We believe that we will, it's not, we have right to dream. So right to dream, we had also thought ki yes, Indian economy can achieve 5 trillion, not an impossible task.
Madam, we economists do not dreams, madam. We believe in reality.
Sir, what the Prime Minister said, we have to trust then. We had to trust with a pinch of salt. You, me, all economic students, we know that it was an impossible. So also now to your question, I would say, actually nothing is impossible. Only it's about doing a right management. If we distribute the resources in the right direction at the right time, in the right way, then I think the problems can be handled. So India has handled crisis. So I think we have like good economists, good planners. We can sort out the problem, and I think government is coming with few more stimulus in few days from time. What I read in the newspaper, that this is not the end. They are planning because it didn't have any impact. Out of 20 lakh crore, you and me know ki actually what amount went to the people. So unless and until you put money in the hands of the people, policies will not bring the impact. Yes.
Okay, madam. Thank you, madam.
So sorry to interject. I think I just want to make a point out here. So there are two things basically to look at. One is how you manage the crisis, which is basically a short-term thing. So you're talking about, okay, you have a crisis at hand, how to manage that one. I think every government is trying to do that, India, including India. And of course, you have an economy that is stuttering right now. You want to try to back it, run on its feet, right? So that is all good. I think from strategic point of view and from the policymaker standpoint, what we should try to do is turning this crisis into an opportunity. I was talking about how there is a resentment about China globally, to shift the manufacturing hub from China. So what India can try to do is incentivize those sectors who can bring in their manufacturing units to India, so that there are multiple benefits of doing that. Even if you give them few $1 billion based on their incentive around export, what you can do is you'll be able to employ a lot of people, right? And your kind of dollar input will be a lot. I was talking about 30 years in making what China has done so far. India should try to seize the opportunity, seize the moment right now.
Thank you.
Could I come in, please?
I'm done.
Hello.
I think a question from Kailash Chandra sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You can ask your question now.
So my question is to ma'am. It is a very high-sounding sort of prepositions what she has used during her discourse of presentation. But certain things actually I couldn't able to digest when ma'am said that actually we are having a very catastrophic situation now. It is again difficult to get rid of this situation, but I found her bit contradictory. When many people of our country have lost their job. In one hand, in other hand, we are also trying to get a consolation of the fact that there should be revenue generations from the government end. I just find it bit contradictory. What could be the proper policy from the government's ends to generate revenue in a huge way in facing this situation where many of us have already lost the job? Please, ma'am, clarify my question.
Sir, the question is for me?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Now, as regards the concept of revenue fall in revenue generation, it's been a long process over a long period of time, because I have discussed in my presentation that there was the aggregate demand, that is consumption, investment, and government expenditure and exports. They were not doing well. So when the components of aggregate demand don't do well, they're falling. So when money doesn't come into the economy, when producers don't produce, so from where will the money come? Where will the revenue come from? And the government can't collect revenue. The consumers are not spending. So there comes the gap. Now the question over here is that to have increased revenue generation during such a time is a difficult task. But government is the most powerful authority on the world. Even without a single penny, it can spend. It has got that power. The magical power is only with the G factor, that is the government. So every time, even during the Great Depression of 1930, it was the government which bailed out. Even during the the financial crisis 2008, it was the government, US government, which bailed out the ailing financial institutions. So also now, our government can do much more. Sky is the limit, but it is not doing because it is cautiously treading the path. So the point being that because until and unless there will be aggregate demand, unless there is a positive scenario, it's an interlinked factor. The producer will not produce unless he sees the demanders demanding. The demanders will not see unless he feel I have only essential consumption to make. I won't spend on the non-essential. So until and unless he sees a good income coming to him, good saving with him, he will not go and do the spending. So to encourage him, here comes the role of government. Government can go for some kind of encouragement through maybe some tinkering in tax, some kind of expenditure, like kind of giving some relief measures, some kind of. I'm talking about the steps, the ability of the government. So the government can do much more. It is a government. So it's a different thing the government is not doing. Whatever we have understood about the Atmanirbhar, these were all about the official steps they did. But they are full of criticism. We know the Indian economy needs real kind of practical entry of money in the hands of the people. And on the one hand, the system is not so foolproof that if the government says we are sending money, there might be some loopholes in the banking system, maybe in the IT connection, maybe in Aadhaar card and PAN connection. So people don't get money in time. So these are it's not a foolproof system. So with this, these are the loopholes we need to address. The systemic constraints are there. So sir, it will not happen, overnight. It will happen. It will take time. What we are talking, as Kumar Vora sir said, we are all elite class. We are discussing issues, but think about the people who are not getting food, who are going night sleeping, going to bed without a square meal a day. There are real situations. So it is who can do this impact? Government.
No, ma'am. Actually, I just don't agree with Kumar Var sir. I will be putting my question to him later. Actually,
what you asked me, my purpose was to answer you. I hope you have got the
but
answer.
yeah, I got the answer. Actually, the fact of the matter lies here is that intellectual discussion is needed. This sort of discussion is needed, so
Yes,
that
sir.
it will provide some sort of solution to the policymakers
Exactly,
to
sir.
go ahead.
Exactly.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So
Welcome, sir.
satisfactory.
Welcome.
So satisfactory. Huh? Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Sir, any questions? Any more?
Yes. Sir, on mute. Sir, ma'am, one question, please unmute.
Yeah.
One question from Manoj Kumar Puisa.
Yes, sir.
Madam, I want to know about the effect of globalization on COVID-19. Is globalization responsible for COVID-19?
Sir, actually, it is responsible for COVID-19 definitely, because it facilitated easy movement and world became a village. But let me share with you, we don't have a choice without globalization either. So the answer is, if world economy will come back to normalcy, it will be to cooperation and globalization only. We depend on each other. Now that every country in the world is, denouncing China, but didn't every country gain out of China too, out of cheap imports? We did save a lot of money. We had cheap production costs down and everything. So China has helped the world. That was the reason every country had a trade deficit with China, because it sent cheap materials. So globalization is beneficial. It facilitates both the parties. So I think, sir, you've got the answer for your question.
Ma'am, it's a question from my side, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Go ahead. Please mute, sir. My question is, please mute, sir. Ma'am, is it audible?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, exactly. As now it means different regions, different economy is locked down, and now the question is, how can we address the supplies and disruption that you have already presented in your presentation, but I did not get exactly what exactly that is.
Okay.
Are you getting my question, ma'am?
Yeah, I got your question.
Yeah.
Now this supply constraint is a thing which has been lingering for a long time from now. You see, internally there was problem, and externally also we obtain, as I mentioned a little while ago, inputs from China and other countries which are our trading partners. So this rigidity in the supply side, the US trade, China, and the lingering effects on the world economy, Middle East crisis, and so forth. So many things were happening. So supply side constraints were already there from the external side. Now in India, inside also you find we have differences between the states also, movements of raw materials that Tamil Nadu will love to import from Malaysia than to obtain things from Himachal or from Kashmir. Okay, because the amount of cost it will incur and the number of paperwork it has to do. So this is the supply side rigidity is explaining this aspects of the thing. So now that we have one nation, one ration card, they should have one nation and one free movement. That is, anyone can go from Kashmir to Kanyakumari with raw materials, with paying the minimum fees, whatever is required for the transport. So this supply side rigidity is one of the factors which was definitely lesser than the aggregate demand shock. So aggregate demand was shorter. We had lesser worries about the supply constraint, right? But over a period of time, now with COVID, it has become more because logistics are affected. There are trade borders are sealed. Countries are not trading now. So states have also, now they have done a lockdown. States also had sealed movements of raw materials. International borders were sealed. So this logistic was affected. So this had tremendous effect on also the production which was to happen in the country. So with time and with policy reforms and with unlockdown, I think this will definitely not be matters for us to discuss. I think the government is also responsible. It is also doing its efforts. State governments are doing on their own level. So I think this will be a matter of time, and realization is there. And as COVID will get over, I think let's hope that the demand side constraint will be settled, and by that time aggregate demand also, with a pent up demand and with things improvising, both AD and AS will help the economy to go up. Was I audible?
Yeah, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am,
okay.
For your response. And
thank you.
Is there any question from? No question. So some question from Dr. Jena. So please, over to Dr. Jena. So it's over to Dr. Jena.
Hello. Exactly. One question is for Sanjay Behra, sir. Hello.
Yeah, listening.
Sanjay, sir. Yes, yes.
Yep.
The question has been put by Sarojini. Without institutional change, is it possible to implement technology for a broader perspective?
So I think the technology itself is ubiquitous. It is already in our life, right? So whatever you are doing today, probably not knowing that you are already using technology. So I think what you need is more of an investment as opposed to IT already. So we have a board called NASCOM, which basically represents the Indian IT organization. And if they have got any issues in doing any business or kind of patenting anything, then I think they can always take up. So it is already well represented. What I was trying to elaborate more on using IT as an enabler is, meaning if you see how we consume IT as a services in most of the case, but we are not using IT to boost the production side, right? So one of the example I already gave is how ITC leveraged, IT. There are a lot of stories around how people are leveraging IT to improve, the production, not only in the agriculture but in many other sectors. So I think there is a necessity to kind of invest on technology and try to take the leverage of technology in all the sectors. Just to put the things into perspective, in Morgan Stanley, I was giving an example that on the height of the pandemic, 95% of the people were able to work from home. That didn't happen by accident. We have been investing money heavily on building the IT infrastructure so that we're ready for any such scenario. Of course, we never knew that there will be a pandemic, but we are ready for BCP, or we called it business continuity plan. Similarly, if you're using IT to your advantage to either boost production or make things easy for you, then it needs concerted effort, not only from the policymakers, but also the people who are implementing in the ground. There are so many things that has happened over the period of time. It is structural as well. For example, if you remember, to pay tax, for example, land tax, you have a land and you want to give khajana, right? In Odisha, we call it khajana. You can do it online today. You don't have to go to the RI and spend half a day to give khajana. You can do it online. I do it for my father's land and stuff online from London. It takes 5 minutes to do that. So again, what I'm trying to tell is technology as such is an enabler for you to do business easily, to do production, to produce more efficiently, and so forth, right? So I think in India, we have a solid framework. I don't think we need to change anything. We rather invest more on technology and try to leverage the power of technology that comes with it. Yeah, does it make sense, guy?
Yes, sir.
What about the employment?
Sorry, I can't hear right now. There was probably a follow-up questions. Can somebody unmute and talk, please?
Yeah. Please unmute, sir. Sir, he's coming. Sanjay sir, exactly one question from my side. Let we start to be connected. Hello.
We are hearing echo. Yeah.
Okay. I want to know to what extent IT sector has been affected so far as employment is concerned.
So I think I gave some figures. So in terms of numbers, I think I cannot tell particularly how many people are redundant in India in the IT sector, but I can tell you for sure there are demands for people, and most of the big companies they're recruiting right now. So I think in terms of redundancies, IT is not probably that badly affected, specifically the big firms like TCS, Infosys, and the international firm, for example, Amazon or Google or Microsoft. They are recruiting people, and I think, of course, I think skill sets are changing right now a bit. However, there is demand for the right skill set of people in IT in India.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, is it audible?
Yes, yes.
Sir, it's a beautiful presentation, and definitely we are feeling we have you as a speaker. I have a question, very basic question, sir. Exactly, we are dealing with digital divide, right, sir?
Yep.
We are dealing with digital divide, sir. And as rural India, the figure of rural India is not so much advanced. And my point of view is that how can we address this type of issue while we are taking classes? We are facing different problems, and our students are not connecting.
I got your point. I got your point. So let me address it in a slightly different way. Rather, I'll ask some more questions, right? And again, I'll come back to this one in a bit. So so when you say digital divide, is basically the divide between rich and poor. So rich people have got IT to their use, and poor people are not able to. However, if you look at the village right now, probably most of the people, at least every household, I can bet, has got a phone. That might not be a smartphone, but they have got a phone. However, we need to make it more, pervasive. We need people to have phone, and we need to have people to use phone. And for that, you need to do quite a few things. Number one, we need to be able to able to have a phone that has got regional language available to it. So for example, people in rural India, they should be able to use phone in their regional language. There are a lot of work going on in there. One of my friend, actually, he has got a technology company. They are working on that one, and I think Reliance bought their company. So they're making it available for that, so that rural people can consume the IT services in their own languages. They don't have to read in English or something. But more importantly, tell me one thing: how many of the people on this particular call are using smartphone? Probably all of them. How many of those smartphones are made in China or some component or all components are from China, probably all of those phones, right? So again, it is a one way of traffic in terms of manufacturing, and that is what I was emphasizing more. India can seize the opportunity to make it a manufacturing powerhouse by incentivizing or attracting investment. I think yesterday they were supposed to have a bill in the parliament where they're trying to incentivize manufacturers, those who will come to India and manufacture for export purposes. And I think 10% of that incentive is for export stuff. So number one, you need to make the device cheap. How can you make it cheap? By locally sourcing the component and manufacturing it. Chinese devices are cheap, no doubt, but the money is going to China. We don't want that. We want the Indian manufacturer to be able to manufacture the phone. Number two, how can you connect them? You need to have robust network. So the government of India has to partner with the private organization. So far it is only private. So far it is either Reliance or Airtel or Tata, they are laying the cable. Why cannot the government have a India-wide fiber optic cable? Yes, it needs investment, but it will pay off, right? So I think we need a high-speed network connections based on optical fiber. You need every single village, every single panchayat, every single house connected one way or the other. Make the content available in local languages, and then you have got all the stuff, like all the know-how that is available in the internet. People simply can use it, consume it, right? I think that is how you can bridge the digital divide. It is not a single solution, but multiple facets of the solution you need to look at.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for your beautiful.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you
for
sir.
asking questions.
So any questions?
Any questions, sir? Okay. Yes. Okay. So I have a question. Yes. On mute. Yeah. So is there Boris sir from Russia, Moscow University? I have a question to Boris sir. Professor Boris. Is there Professor Boris? Hello. Is there Professor Boris?
No, 1 hour before he left.
Okay. So anyway, now I have to present some questions which have been put before Professor Kumar Vardas sir, but unfortunately Professor Kumar Vardas sir has not been connected till now due to some technical problem. So I may present this question. If I don't present these questions before forum, then it will be injustice to the participants. So I feel it will be justified to put these questions before forum. And these questions may be taken by either of our resource persons. So first question may be, this question has been put by Ajoy Behra. So the first question is, how can employment problem be solved by Government of India? How can employment problem be solved by Government of India? Ma'am.
Okay,
I
fine.
think, yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'll
I think
put
it will be
some-
relevant. I think it will be relevant for ma'am.
Okay, I'll try to answer the question.
Yeah.
First of all, we need to take a revamping of our education system. Major part of, unemployment is happening because of the kind of education system we have. Yes. So the point being that if we focus more on, this, is somebody asking something? Okay. So you find that the system of education is faulty for producing people who are educated, and they'll end up as unemployment. So already process has started in this way, taking off, changing the system. The second point which I would like to take is government can, make a great, connect between the sectors. You find the services sector, which takes up the skilled employed, while manufacturing and agriculture do absorb the rest of the uneducated and less trained people. So the sectors like manufacturing in India hasn't developed to a great extent, but it has great potential. So if we can, put people more into this system, that is develop a manufacturing sector, while at the same time produce youth. We already have a demographic dividend. If we direct the youth into that channel, I think they would not land up in being unemployed people. And China did, they didn't have many educated people. They used the illiterate women as well. who were making chips and putting in, and assembling mobile phones. China was exporting to the world. So we can, adopt this kind of thing in India also. So we have a huge population, we have a huge youth, we have huge land, we have huge, there is no paucity of that. So I think we have a great opportunity for employment creating through the manufacturing sector. So, and the last point which I would like to say is that lots of old model pattern of systems are still continuing in India. It's time we reform certain rigid laws so that there is a great culmination of linkages between the three sectors, and give prospects, give opportunities to the private sector to go and create industries and factories, and set up training schools in the remote and rural areas. There's some disturbance, somebody is speaking.
Sorry, guys. If you're not speaking, can you mute yourself? I think, Madam was speaking, making a very good point, and we could not hear that, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I think these are the 3 points which I hope it has been audible to you. So I think there are lots of prospects, but only thing is, the willpower and political consensus. I think we can do it. And the creation of employment is essentially should be the first priority for the country, and every politician understands, every policy makers understand, but for reasons best known to them, it is given a backseat. So I think the 3 steps which I've told definitely will make a difference for creation of large amount of employment.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am,
Okay.
actually, we have experimented. Hello. So
Yes, sir.
we have experimented that is a reverse migration.
Yeah.
So the people were migrated, and during the pandemic, the people again came back to the state.
Yes.
And at that time also, government assured to migrants that they will observe. Government will observe all the people in their own area. But unfortunately, again it has come to our knowledge that these migrants again went back to their previous place. That it was proved that government couldn't become able to observe, or government couldn't become able to give livelihood. That's why people again went back to that place. So where is the problem? Why didn't government become able to do that?
Okay, sir. First of all, we have a system, the Manrega thing is there. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, which gives 100 days of employment. So I think government has used, and many, people in the rural areas apply for this kind of opportunities. So in many states, like I was going through a paper, like in West Bengal and all, it was already sort of absorbed. They had reached the high maximum level of employing people. So the people who came back from from who were all working in other states, were migrants over there, once they returned to the home state, so immediately there was a problem of making adjustment. So that the point being that if they don't get any employment, they can't linger in the village for a long time, because food and staying home, everything is also a problem for the family. So these people felt that if we go and walk somewhere in the village, we take a small type of walk, that would not be sufficient for looking after the family, compared to what we used to get to when we were walking in the other states like Gujarat or Maharashtra. So these people felt, and also, sir, they got calls from their employers also, who said ki you get back and we will start with the work. So I think the unlock thing and other things had a factor also for calling the people coming back to their place of work and not staying in their native villages. This is one. And second point is that, sir, the state governments also, I think it could be taken as too early and too short a time to make, employment generation. Agriculture already had a disguised employment burden. So some people went and walked in their fields and other thing, but that was a pseudo employment. So practically getting some employment was not an easy job. So it can't be created overnight. So I think state governments had their limitations. So this can be added as a factor what made, people to, have no employment and rather prefer to go back to their place of work.
Then is the rural base sufficient to observe that one? Then if it is not, then who is responsible for that? Whether government should have taken all these initiatives before long.
Yes, sir. Actually, yes, sir. As I pointed out a while ago, that government has immense capacity. The government, both at the central and the state. Now you find there is a need for close coordination. And in India, as KB professor was mentioning, that we have had not actually industrialization. We had industries. So industrialization will have forward and backward linkages. The past factors have been responsible for the present state of affairs. I would say in this way, the past way of, the policing, we have had faulty policing. So the past way of, doing things, that was not proper. But then whatever has happened now, to expect things to happen overnight also would be like, expecting too much. But then, sir, the way the governments are doing, I think had it been so worse, then I think the people would have taken to roads or something, taken to strikes or some kind of protest or something. So I think each state government is trying to do something or the other. I think no one wants to lose its seat in the next election. This is a challenge for them. So I think whether it's the BJD government at Odisha or the Mamata Banerjee government in Bengal, each of them are trying to take, some kind of ameliorating measures to give some kind of protection to the displaced worker. And I think this is a realization, sir, in the long time, better things, maybe they will plan out, policies might be better. You learn it in the hard way. Sir, your voice is not audible.
Excuse me. Okay. So last question has been put by Torun Giri. And his question is, farmers of India are uneducated and poor. In this situation, how the agriculture sphere can be developed, basically during the pandemic?
Sir, regarding the first point, that is farmers uneducated, and they are poor, it's related. Now, as I said, this is the attachment to the village and staying at land. People prefer to practice disguise unemployment than to go to towns. But there is a change. Now they are migrating to urban areas in search of better livelihoods. So if the government, both center, local, and the state, they combine and create linkages, create value added industries, educate the rural youth, take help of the IT sector development like e-Chopal, which ITC did brought in the concept. So these things are happening in Maharashtra, Gujarat. Things have started in this way, the points which I'm telling. But it is because India being such a huge village and people themselves are afraid of development. They would rather prefer to have pokhada bhata and go to sleep than to go and have better things, have a nice rice and chicken or something. So people themselves are scared of, change. So this thing can happen only if we bring in education, and true education and real literacy will make a difference. People will hate to be poor. So I think the first task will be if the netas and the politicians and the policymakers stress on education of the children. That is where the real development will start, and that is where problems will start, becoming lesser. I hope I'm clear, sir.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, both of you, and Boris sir is absent and Kumar Vodar sir is absent, but nicely you both responded all the questions put by our participants. Thank you. Now over to our host, Jay Kumar.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Jana. Before the vote of thanks session, we would like to take some feedback from our esteemed speakers. Sanjay sir is with us and Ardhana ma'am with us also. If you want to give some feedback, you can also, ma'am, and sir also. Over to you, ma'am and sir.
Okay. First of all, it was actually an interesting session with, the idea that this institute is in catering to the rural area.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So actually it's very impressive that you all are conducting, webinars of, this level. That is, you are inviting people from different forums, people who matter, people who are practical, like Mr. Sanjay, who has practical experience about the IT sector. Boris did talk about demographic, the real things, we are not aware of many things. We are just confined to some 1-2 aspect, but details things, when we discuss, this kind of webinars do provide, and nowadays in COVID times, you'll find we are confined to homes. Knowledge and IT are the two things we are doing. We are in the education sector. I can tell my example. We take online classes, we do online preparation and everything, and that makes us, that we have done something productive. So I thank your institution, real good, coordination, real good people, the faculty is good with real spirits. They are having, yearning for knowledge and the coordinating aspect, and I admire the principal of the college who is providing opportunity and all facilities and infrastructure and encouragement above all that you do. And I admire the vice chancellor ma'am also. She seems very dynamic, and I think unless and until you have good leaders, you can't go ahead in doing good things. And the good teachers and the practitioners in the institution, they are the examples to the students. And when they do, apart from teaching such kind of, interactive activities, I think this is the best thing which can happen to an institution. The growth, we are talking about growth and GDP and all that. I think growth of your institution is guaranteed. It will go. It will catch up, and I think keep working hard in this way. And thank you for providing us this opportunity, and I would pray God that you achieve many more heights and keep shining in this way. And God bless everyone.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am, for the sweet words. So over to Sanjay sir.
Honestly speaking, I don't have anything to say, to be honest. I think Aradhana ma'am put it in a nice context, to be honest, and I cannot be more than agree what she said. It is a really, really tremendous initiative by you guys. I cannot feel more than proud coming from the same place, same rural area, and seeing you guys, sitting around 9,000 or 7,000 and 9,000 probably, or 11,000 kilometers away, and talking to you over the internet. And this is a really, really good initiative by RIHS, and specifically thanks to the organizing committee to organize such a enlightening discussions, and which is relevant to the context, right? And I think normally we tend to do it in the industry. When we discuss something of great importance, we invite people from industries and do such kind of webinars. When the educational institution do it, it is a direct interface between the educational institution and people who met us. In this case, probably, Aradhana ma'am and people from economic backgrounds. I'm kind of an outsider, as I said. I don't have any clue or any relation to the economics as such. I look that from an outside point of view, but still I'm I am proud to be associated in whatever the way it is with this noble effort. I thank the participants, specifically the students, for being patient and listening to us and tolerate us for such a long time. Really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Any participant want to give some feedback? Any participants? Any participants have any feedback regarding the 1 or 2 participants at least? Please unmute your audio, or then you can speak.
Yes, myself, Dr. Kailash Chandra Das, teaching in a college in district of Dhenkanal. Sir, I just would like to say, it is indeed a commendable job. As Ma'am Aradhana and Sir Sanjay has elaborately said many things, I would like to just put forth my ideas that institution like yours will be standing as a source of inspirations for other such kind of institutions those who are hailing from rural belts. Another great aspect of holding such kind of seminars or webinars of these heights are that during this reverse situation, pandemic situation, you just knocked at the door of other institutions, that it is though reverse situations or situation of pandemic, but we don't have to sleep. We have to wake up and we have to earn knowledge. We have to use IT, as Sanjay sir said very often, that to enhance our knowledge, and we have to best use of IT or technology to reach at our students and to explore the ideas which is hidden within us and to give it away to the rest of the world. Sir, I really salute your commendable effort, and I definitely, being a teacher, looking forward such kind of more activities in coming time. And I pray same rhythm as ma'am prayed to God for the brighter days of your institution, sir. This is a very heartfelt comment from my core of the heart, sir. Thank you very much giving me opportunity to share my feedback, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very beautiful and very touchy words. Thank you, sir. Any other participants want to speak? Okay, so now it's the time for vote of thanks. So for that, I'd like to request our respected teacher, Mahapatra sir. Over to you, Mahapatra sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. I, Sri Ajay Kumar Mahapatra, Reader in Economics, RHS Bhogarai, prevail extremely privileged to give vote of thanks in today's international webinar. We convey our gratitude to Professor Sushil Kumar Giri, Principal, RHS Bhogarai. We are also thankful to VC, FM University, Balasore, who has inaugurated today's seminar. We convey our heartfelt thanking to Professor K.B. Das, an eminent economist and ex-Vice Chancellor, FM University, Balasore, for becoming chief guest of today's webinar. We convey our deep regards to Professor Boris Petrovich Denisov as guest of honor for sparing time for the webinar. We are also thankful to Dr. Aradhana Nando as our guest of honor. We are her much for delivering a lecture. We are very much grateful to Mr. Sanjay Behera, our guest of honor, for sparing his valuable time to talk in the webinar. We are also thankful to all our participants who have attended the webinar. We are grateful to all media persons, organizing team, and all other associated with the webinar. Thank you all once again.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Stay safe and have a good day. So that's all. This is the end of this meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay
Thank you
safe.
so much.
Stay home. Bye.
Thank you so much.